Hey, what's up, everybody? Cale Hernandez here from the Electric Batcast. Joining me today is Serge.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Cale.
And as you can see, this is a little something different. Usually after hours, Serge and I play pinball, and we have some great pinball discussions. You have some fantastic opinions on pinball.
That's mighty kind of you, Cale.
And I think, I was like, I think more people need to hear this. So we decided to start this podcast. This is Electric Batcast Presents Pinpals. And because that's what we are. We're Pinpals.
We are Pinpals.
And you came up with that name. I can't take the credit for that one.
It wasn't our original name.
It wasn't. We had to table some of the original names. Some of the original names were more interesting.
They were too hot to handle, though.
Too hot to handle. We were worried about getting shadow banned. And
plus, my wife said no.
Okay. Oh, and that's most importantly.
Right.
I didn't even know about that.
That's true. That's true.
What are we going to get onto? This is what do you call this? Is the premiere episode?
That's right.
Of Pinpals, the pilot.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what we were thinking about it. First, this is kind of a podcast inception. We're doing a podcast within a podcast, right? It's your podcast along with your great co-host Rachel, the Electric Bat Arcade, but we're going to do our own sub-podcast within it because I said Cale does not have enough exposure. I said, sure.
I need to be exposed.
Right. You love being exposed. I said, sure. Cale has the #1 Twippy award-winning podcast with his better half, Rachel, right?
Yep, thank you.
And sure, he's on the round table, right, with Jamie from the JBS show and
Correct.
Retro Ralph.
That's right.
And they just released a 3-hour episode that was straight fire,
and
right?
You saw that.
I saw it. It was really good.
Yeah, good.
And sure, sometimes he's a guest on the Pinball Party podcast.
Holy crap.
As well.
I do so much.
Right. And sure, along with Rachel, he helps run the greatest, largest single venue arcade league night in the whole world, not just in Arizona.
Let's
right?
keep going.
Electric Bat. Oh, I will keep going if you're asking. And sure, they sell wonderful merch worn by great players all over the world and fashion models.
That's right.
From Milan to Rio.
That's right.
Such as the type we're wearing right now.
That actually is true.
Right.
Yeah.
And sure, you run a Discord with several hundred members. Very popular. All the people are in it.
There's so much I forget about.
Right. And sure, you have all these other things going on. You're into RC cars and jiu-jitsu and Lord knows what other hobbies,
and
right?
Here we are.
And yet there needs to be more, we said.
What am I missing? What is the ingredient that I'm missing, Serge?
And I'll tell you what you're missing.
Tell me.
It's a good segue. So this podcast, what we want to do is something different. There's a lot of podcasts out there, obviously, for pinball. If you're into pinball, you know that.
Yeah.
There's podcasts that cover the news. There's ones that cover the collector scene. You have one that covers the operator scene, which was missing.
Right.
There's all those sort of podcasts out there, right?
Sure.
Tournament player scene and everything like that. I think what we can do that maybe is a bit different is talk game theory.
Ooh.
The theory of what makes a good game.
I don't know if I know much about it. So
You definitely do.
You're going to have to fill me in.
All right, I'll tell you what we're thinking.
All right. Where do we start?
All right. So what we thought about for episode 1 is talk about what makes for good rules. And really dive deep into what would we consider good rules, why we'd consider good rules, what would we consider bad rules, that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And when it comes to making rules, it's tough. I know that it's tough. It's tough to make everyone happy because there's not one end user of pinball, right? Ultimately, there's a player, right? But there's also an operator. You have to make operators happy with your code and everything else in the game, right? The theme and so forth. But when we're just talking about code alone, you have to make operators happy. You have to make the players happy. And there are different types of players. There's the novice. There's the intermediate. There's the pros, the tournament players.
Sure.
There's people who care about score. And then there's people who care about the journey, being immersed in the theme and playing along the modes. And they don't care about the score. And so you have all these different types. There's the home buyer, the collectors, and so forth, people who play on location. And so when you have all these different types, they all want kind of different things. They overlap, but they want different things, right? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
And so it's tough to make everyone happy. And yet, I think you can make everyone happy.
You have to be able to make if you want to survive in business,
right?
You have to make the biggest section of the population happy.
Right. You have to know your end users. You have to make them happy. And especially when games can cost $10,000, you better make them happy.
100%.
And so that's what we want to go into. And, in future episodes, we can talk about other things like what makes for good lighting, what makes for good tournament games, what makes for good whatever. Art, for example. We can get into that.
We're not going to touch on that in this one.
Right. This one's about code.
Yeah. We're zooming in.
So to be more specific, what I thought we can do with this code conversation is I want to give you my 10 criteria that I think about that what makes good code. I'm going to give you 10 criteria. Now, you don't have to agree with these criteria, and I'd love to know if you have others that you would include.
I'm ready for it.
And if you are a designer, a coder of games, you also may not agree with these criteria. I don't have the hubris that tells me that these are the right criteria that you have to follow. But I'll say this, Cale. I think whatever you do in pinball or in life, if you have a goal, if you have a project, if you have a business, you better have criteria in mind.
You have to.
And you have to measure against that. And you have to say, did I do a good job measuring against that? And so we're going to use these criteria for today.
Okay.
But if there's others, I accept that.
Right. And so if when Ray Day listens to this and he has
and he's coming, by the way, in about a month.
We're going to hang out with him.
For the 7th anniversary tournament.
And he has a question or comment, he can just get in touch with me.
That's true. Not me.
And then I'll let you know.
Right. But I'd love to see him next month. And obviously, if you have comments or disagreements, put them in the chat. We'll respond. Right? Or put them in our Discord. We'll respond there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have this on YouTube, Spotify, all the regular venues.
Amazing. Yeah. So I'm going to give you the 10 criteria. And then as I do, here's what I think we can do. With each criteria, we'll talk through why that's a criteria, what makes it, how do you accomplish it. And then what I thought I could do with every criteria of these 10 that we'll go through is we'll do 4 things. All right. Number 1 is we'll talk about what are really good examples of pinball that meets this criteria.
Sure.
Maybe what are some bad examples as number 2. And then for me, the overall best code of all games, I'll tell you what, to show my bias, is Jurassic Park. And I'll talk about why Jurassic Park is overall best as we go through these criteria. Right?
Yeah.
And then the 4th thing is that I thought we can do is one of the reasons that generated this conversation is we were talking about King Kong. And we were saying there's things I like about it and things I don't. And what I thought I could do is we could take a game in this episode, in the specific King Kong, and go through these criteria and say, what is it? How does it meet these criteria, yes or no? Is that fair? And give it a grade.
Yeah, I love it.
And maybe in future episodes, if it's interesting, if this works for the chat too and for viewers at home, is that we can ask you, what game do you want to hear about? And maybe in future episodes, we could take another new game like King Kong and balance it against these criteria and say, does it do a good job?
I guarantee, I've been podcasting long enough to guarantee that the audience is going to have their opinion and they're going to want you to hear it.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'd be excited for that. All right, should we get to it?
Let's go.
All right. I'm going to give you the 10 criteria. Now,
criteria number 1.
Now, I'm doing it live. I'm doing it for those people listening by audio, but I think you're going to put on the criteria overlaying as I'm saying it,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
All right, so here's my 10 criteria, and then we're going to go through. I'm going to name all 10, and then we'll go through them one by one.
Yeah.
All right, so the first one is moments, pinball moments.
Yes.
The next one is theme immersion. Does the code make you feel like you're in the theme?
Okay.
The third one is going to be breadth. How many choices do you have to start the game, or do you just have one thing to do? The next one is depth. How far can you go? What do you get for going far? The next one is going to be clarity. How clear is it to play that game and what you have to do in that code?
Okay.
And then we're talking number 6 is going to be risk and reward. Does the game give you something, dangle something in front of you? If you do something more, that's worth more, right? The next one after that, number 7 is going to be fair and balanced. Does the code feel fair and balanced? Number 8 will be innovation. Does it do new things that you haven't seen before?
Okay. Number
9 will be, I'll call it, I was so close, ... And what I mean by that is pacing, basically, that, whenever you play an L1 game, not to skip ahead, almost every game, you always feel like, man, I was one shot away from that thing.
Yes.
And that's a great feeling, actually. It's a bad feeling inside because you were like, I was so close.
Leave them wanting more.
But you want to leave them wanting more.
Yes.
And then number 10 we'll talk about is bugs in code, right? And you can't forget about this one because if you have bugs in code, you can't, you want to comment on that one?
You cannot talk about code without talking about bugs because at some point there are always bugs. They have to be cleaned up.
That's right.
Yeah.
So with that, let's get into our first one.
Let's do it.
All right.
Number 1,
moments. What do I mean by moment? And then we'll go back and forth and talk about games that are good at it. When I say moment, I mean an individual moment in the game that's often a combination of lights and sounds and mechs in the game and rules that makes you feel involved in that moment, that puts the energy into you, sometimes emotion into you, sometimes excitement.
Yes.
It could be a lot of things,
but
adrenaline, a single moment that makes you feel like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have some favorite pinball moments?
Just off the top of my head while you're talking about it, Foo Fighters.
Okay,
I think it has some great moments.
Tell me.
The call outs combined with the lights, when and I can't remember, we talked about this with some people, maybe it was on the stream. Oh no, it was on the JBS show when we were talking about lighting and people who use ad lights to the game and how it ruins moments.
Yeah.
So when you're playing Foo Fighters and that action button is flashing, when you hit it, the lights are about to go out.
Okay.
So you have to think about where your ball is at that time. Because for a second, I might not be able to see this ball. And to me, that's a great moment in pinball because you are interacting with that moment.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I feel is a moment, there's not one way to achieve it, but they often share a few qualities. They often share a lighting that changes, a sound call that changes. It's often worth something score-wise in that moment. And often there's a pause in the gameplay. It doesn't have to be, but I'll give you an example. Like for me, one of the best examples is Showtime multi-ball and Adam's Family.
Oh,
it's that one moment. It's singular. It makes you feel something when you hit it.
Right.
And I think what makes it so key in that case is it's not a complex mech. It's just a scoop. It has a chair on top, but it's just a scoop.
And there's a light.
So it's not about wow. It's easy to achieve moments sometimes when you have an amazing mech, like in Pirates of the Caribbean JJP. It has a cannon that fires from one ship to another one. That's a great moment. It's easy to achieve it when you have mechs, but I want to focus more on the rule side of achieving it. Because even when you don't have mechs, you could do it with just the rules, with sound effects, with lighting. So like in Adam's Family, not an amazing mech, it's just a scoop, but it matters. You feel something when you hit it. And it's really helped out in that case by a pause in the game, by the Raul Julia callouts. Of course, that helps too. That's not rules, but it helps to have callouts like that, right? And then it's worth something, and something big is about to happen. And you don't get it every game. You often get close to it, but you don't get it every game. You can't have it be offered to you, handed out every game. I think that takes away from a moment. You know what I mean?
We'll talk about games that do that.
Yeah, we will.
Companies that do that.
Even entire companies, right? And so let's getting more into moments. Then I want to ignore the moments that are made from great mechs. Like a cannon shot. Obviously that matters, but you can't have that in every game. And even a game like Adam's Family relies on the great callouts to get it there. TNA has great moments from the music. The music changes when you blow up a reactor. The game goes off like crazy. Right. There's music changes, and it helps to have great music in that case. But for me, back to Jurassic Park, why I think it's an overall, one of the greatest, for me, the greatest code out there, is you talk about the smart missile shot. In that smart missile shot, it's not a mech. It's not special sound effects or call-outs or music.
It's just a target.
It's just a target.
That's it.
That's all it is. There's a pause in the gameplay, and you have a hard shot to make. And that's a key, too.
What's even more interesting, you can make a decision.
Right.
And you're under stress.
Under stress to make that decision.
Yes.
It amps up the stress.
Right.
And I think what makes that moment great to me is that, number one, there's a pause in the gameplay. There's an amp and stress level because it's giving you a choice.
Yeah.
There is a shot that's really hard to make that you don't make all the time. And for me, when I'm playing Jurassic Park, I usually, in most games, get an opportunity to make the smart missile shot. But I usually don't get it.
Right.
And so I think that's what makes a moment too, is it can't be handed out to you. Ideally, you want opportunity to get it, but you don't want it to be so reliable that you get it every time.
And what's very interesting with that particular shot, we talked about why that's a moment. You talked about why that's an incredible moment.
Yeah.
It happens. You have to make a decision. Sometimes you miss that the decision because you scroll past it and you have to restart. But when you get that shot in a multi-ball, holy crap, it's stress on top of stress.
Yep.
And man, if that's not a moment, I don't know what is.
You hear Phil, what I'm saying?
Yes.
Then? And so I think I start with that first one because I think that applies to everyone. When I first came up with these criteria in mind for this episode, I was thinking initially, the first 5 criteria are more going to be for people who are the journey players who want to be emotionally involved in the game. And the last 5 are more for the tournament scoring type players. And there's both. But the truth is, when I started doing that, I realized, there's a lot of overlap there. And a lot of us are both. We care about being invested in the game, and we also care about the score. The smart missile shot is a moment because the stress is amped up and you're into it.
Right.
But it's also a moment because it matters. He makes it one of the most higher scoring things you could do in the game. That one shot is worth a ton of points. And that matters too. You don't want it to be worth nothing. I think about it sometimes like, let's start calling things out. Is that okay? Can we start doing that?
Go.
So sometimes Dwight will code games, and he's a great coder in many respects, but sometimes he'll code games where something crazy interesting happens, like the Boba Fett mode in Star Wars, right? But it doesn't matter. And if you watch
Mandalorian,
Ambush is another one.
Okay.
You know, if you're talking about that one, most players will time that out and they won't experience the moment. And so it's not just about making the lights go off and the rules go crazy, but you have to tie it to scoring. You have to recognize how that plays into the game. It has to matter to all types of players, the journey players and the scoring players. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. We're still on moments. And one of the things I was going to say is, you know, with every one of these, we're gonna bring in King Kong and say what I like about it, what I don't, right? And here I'm gonna be honest.
Even though it's not finished.
Even though it's not finished, I know.
You already have
I have a take.
You have the take.
I have a take.
It's good, and then we'll revisit it.
We'll revisit it. I'm willing to be
at 1.0. At
1.0, this could well be changed,
and it might be changed because of this discussion.
We'll see about that. We'll see about that. See if they care. But what I would say is, and I'm going to say really nice things about King Kong, but I don't think I have a great thing to say here about moments, and I'll tell you what I mean. Right? Like if you're playing the premium, I suppose you could argue. You know, you get the King Kong multi-ball, and the balls get locked up into the main mech, the train car, and King Kong bashes it. And you could say that's a moment. That's a moment made by the mech. It's not made by the code.
Right.
You know, it's made by the mech.
Sure.
If you have a pro, I don't feel much when King Kong multi-ball happens. And I think even in a pro, you can feel things when the multi-ball happens.
For sure.
You know, I'll give you an example, maybe like Godzilla. When you hit the house, the building main mech, the Godzilla multi-ball, obviously it's really cool in the premium, and the mech and falls down, the building falls down, it makes you feel immersed and all of that. But even in a pro, without that falling building like that, just making the shot and then the music starts down. You know, makes you feel that Blue Oyster Cult, which you normally wouldn't listen to, but it works in the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
No shade to Blue Oyster Cult.
Right. Yeah. No, we love Blue Oyster Cult.
No, we're fans. Yeah. But there in the game, it works really, really well. It brings you into it. It matters. You're making shots that bring down the building. The lights change on the building.
Yes.
You're immersed in it that way, and then making that shot matters. And personally, I don't know if you do. I don't feel that in King Kong. I don't feel when I get into King Kong multi-ball, any of the same dopamine hit that I get in some of the other examples, like Addams Family, you know, for example.
Right, for sure.
Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. But that may be coming. We don't know.
There's one moment that's kind of cool, I'd say, is but it's pretty far out, and a lot of players never see it, which is when you're battling the T-Rex in I almost said Godzilla, but in King Kong, and some people don't even know there is a T-Rex in there. But let's say you're battling a T-Rex.
I got to the other day when I was playing with Jamie.
Now, did you get to the part where the magnet traps the ball? In the T-Rex mode.
The spider magnet?
The spider magnet.
I can't remember.
So that's what I'm saying. It didn't have impact, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You make a few shots in the T-Rex mode, and then it lights the magnet on the spider, the ball hits there, and then it asks you to hit the button really fast to pummel the T-Rex. And it's a kind of a cool moment.
Oh, you know what? I missed that.
There you go.
I was playing with Jamie, and it trapped the ball. And I was wondering, am I supposed to hit it with another ball?
Right.
I didn't know what to do.
Because and maybe that'll change in the future, but there's not a huge call out that really, you know, they could argue they put one in there, but the evidence is what you just said.
Right.
You don't even recognize it as a moment. I didn't know what was going on. You didn't recognize that was an opportunity for a moment. And not let alone it's hard to get to that, right? So for me, I'd say like it doesn't have moments.
Along the lines of that, with stuff that players, especially new players, are not getting, the dead shot.
Do you mean the right orbit with the punchback?
Well, when you're trying to hit the spider targets, and it keeps feeding.
Oh, the dead eye. Right. That you could argue is an interesting moment too.
No, it's an interesting moment. But,
you're right. That's a good call.
So many people
don't get to it.
Well, they get to it, but then they go, my flippers died.
Yep.
They think it's a malfunction.
Yeah, it's a moment that doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
You know, that Addams Family is a moment that works for everyone.
Yeah.
If you get there. You get the ball in there, you know something happened.
Yeah.
The balls are about to fly out, and it's a long pause in the game.
Yeah.
You know, things go dark. It says showtime. Big call out. Bigger in voice than all the other ones.
Right.
Oftentimes, like the T-Rex thing, it's the same volume of call out as everything else. It's washed out, you know, in the drowned out and everything else. So to your point about the dead eye, too, I think it could be more impactful if they said clearly, you know, what you're supposed to do in that moment.
Sure.
And I think they do to an extent, but I think it needs to be punched up because of exactly what you're saying.
Right.
So that's my moment talk. You know, does that make sense?
Absolutely. But can we talk about too much moments? Too many moments?
Tell me about too many moments.
I mean, just pick any Jersey Jack.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, for me, I don't think a Jersey Jack has a single moment because everything is a moment.
Right.
A moment is only defined as unique, and it only gives you the dopamine hit when it's special.
Yes.
When it's not special, you don't get that.
Right. And, I know people say this a lot. They call them slot machines.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I mean, they literally have people who were working in the slot machine world working there now and programming these machines. So I think that's by design. I mean...
Yeah, and I know this could be quite a digression into like lighting, for example. But, there's a lot of purposes of lighting in pinball. One of them is to attract people to the game, to make it attractive.
Yes.
That's the slot machine mentality.
And that's what you've been to Vegas.
Oh, I sure have.
I mean, that's what slot machines do.
I don't play the slots, though.
I don't play the slots either.
I'm there to make money. I go into the poker room.
Right.
I'm doing the math.
I don't gamble.
No, you know what? Yeah, you're right. It's,
card counting is not illegal. We'll get into that later.
We can get into that later, and I can teach you some tricks. But what I was going to say is that, lighting is important for attracting people, and they got that figured out. No question. The hot rails, all the colors. Doesn't matter if it's Godfather. Let's get some reds and pinks and yellows and greens, and it'll be fun.
Right.
But lighting is also about conveying the rules to people. It's also about making a moment, for example. Yeah. And that's where they fail. They have all the lights on at once, even when the game is playing. And I'm the type of guy who understands rules, For sure. So I get the rules. It's not like, it's too complicated for me. Yeah. No, I could tell you the rules of almost every Jersey Jack game.
Right.
And I still don't like it.
So it seems like just one big moment.
Yeah.
It just moment.
Right.
Here we go.
Which means you don't have a moment.
Which I've argued in the past on podcasts, which it gives the player fatigue.
Yeah.
You have to have these highs and lows. I mean, that's just entertainment. That's what you do in an album. That's what you do in books and literature. And that's what you do in moving, good cinema.
Right. What's ironic, actually, even on slot machines, anyone who's designed slot machines knows a bit of behavioral psychology, that they're based on variable extinction, not to get too nerdy here.
Yeah, go with it.
The point is that there is a reward, but it's not offered every time. It's offered once in a while, and it makes you want to play. And it's not a regular occurrence when you get that reward. Because it's variable and you don't know when it's coming, that actually is what addicts you. And ironically, the JJP has the lighting of slot machines, but they don't have the rules of slot machines down because they let you win every time or feel like you're winning. Yeah, not that you can't explode the score to 300 million or whatever, and you can't anyway there because a lot of their games started with 100,000 points as like the max, which is weird. But even then, I would say you can't excite people if you give them a multi-ball at the beginning of the game. It doesn't. I know that it's not a high-scoring multi-ball necessarily. They can make an argument like that, but it gives you the feeling too much.
Case in point, Beatles. You get to choose your mode.
Yep. At
the beginning of each ball, but you don't get to choose the multi-ball mode
until the end,
until the third ball.
Yeah, that's right. Fair. Yeah. So moments. Does that cover it, or anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think you covered.
We got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I gave an honest assessment.
I love it.
Games we were talking about. Next category, theme immersion.
Yes.
And when I say theme immersion, you can get immersed into the theme, even a theme that you're not into, through a lot of ways. Through the music, if you're, I don't love Iron Maiden, but the music's playing and I'm into it, when I'm playing the pinball machine.
Right.
And sounds and call-outs and mechs, again, like a rocking pirate ship in JJP Pirates is great for building theme immersion. But I don't want to focus on that because we're talking about rules. What can you do in rules? Just rules alone, the code, to make people feel like you're into the theme. And here's where I'll start with Jurassic Park as an example, right? Forget about the mechs. Even on a pro, there's no moving dinosaur or anything like that. Even on a pro, there's great theme immersion. There's a single green dinosaur shot when you start a paddock and it's moving around. And there's a few orange rescue shots of people.
Right.
And you have to get to those people before the green shot gets to the orange shot. And if you don't, it'll say an employee is in danger. And then you've lost that employee and they get eaten by the dinosaur.
You're freaking out.
You're freaking out. You don't want that on your
conscience.
There's
a connection. You're trying to save the human beings from giant lizards.
That's true.
And when one goes down, you're like, oh, crap, I can't let this happen again.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of people would think like, Serge, you're being a little like corny. Like people don't really need to be emotionally invested in pinball. They're just playing a game. They're hitting, waiting for flashing lights. Even to a certain extent, if you buy that argument, and I could see that argument, I think at a subconscious level, people feel it.
Yeah.
Even more than they can express when they're involved in the theme. And so there, you know, with that dinosaur in Jurassic Park, so you have to save the humans. Then you save some humans, and then there's some inserts that say set trap, and you have to hit that. And then you collect your dinosaur. But if it's a bigger dinosaur later on, as the modes get harder, then you have to go to the helipad to get the helicopter and lift that dinosaur up.
Right.
You know, for example. There's thought. That's deep theme immersion.
It's amazing.
Through just purely rules.
Yeah.
Without relying on mechs that make it easy, and sounds and call-outs and all of that, which are great. Even just a rule design is very thoughtful there about getting you into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, they tie the helicopter to a horizontal spinner that makes you really into it.
Yes.
Or like on Jaws, they tie the fishing reel into the horizontal spinner there.
What a cool spinner.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, for theme immersion. It's not a fancy mech. It's not like expensive.
Right.
It's not, you could get that on the Pro, you know, for example, but it matters. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'll give you some other good theme immersion, you know, like rules stuff. You take Pulp Fiction, which really puts people into the theme despite being a single level game. Really helps to have great call-outs there from the movie, of course, and really helps to have great music. But let's separate that out. You know, I don't know if you've ever gone into it, but there's a mode in Pulp Fiction that's called The Shot, you know, which is about the scene where Uma Thurman, you have to give her the adrenaline in her heart to, you know, get her back alive. And what they'll do is they'll turn all the lights off and they'll just strobe lights towards the one shot you have to hit with a thumping sound, you know, to keep her heart back on.
Sure.
That's some theme immersion through just simple playfield rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know how they shot that shot in the movie?
Tell me.
John Travolta.
Yeah.
He actually did it backwards. He started with the syringe at her chest, and then pulled back. And then they ran it backwards to make it look like he's really hitting her hard.
Got it. You know, that was a
little trivia for you.
That is trivia. You know, it lost Best Picture that year, even though it should have won. Probably.
It should have won.
Do you remember what it lost to?
No.
I think it lost to Forrest Gump, which is a good movie.
Oh,
I think you could check me on that, chat.
That's a hard argument.
Something like that.
Those are two. They should have both won.
They should have both.
That's a draw.
That's a draw, right?
That's a draw.
Yeah. I think Pulp Fiction has the lasting impact, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
I think that's right. You can check me on that. All right.
Theme immersion.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
If we're still on that topic,
we are.
Barrio's
BBQ.
What's it called? The barbecue challenge?
The barbecue challenge.
Now, when they sent out those letters to distros trying to get the machine in barbecue joints around the nation, you can't. That's serious theme immersion.
That's attempts at theme immersion.
That's okay. Well,
we could agree there. We could certainly agree there.
Well, there you have it. Yeah,
it's attempts at marketing that doesn't work out. I'd honestly argue. I played it. It's an okay game actually. It's got some nice sizzle sounds of meat going on. You know, that's true. But I'd honestly argue there's a game right behind us. Actually, funny you should mention it. Diner. You know,
right?
Diner's from the '80s. It's hard to get great mechs and so forth in the game, but it has pretty good theme immersion. You know, to be honest. It's got customers. You're bringing the back glass. You know, has like a 3-dimensional diner going on. Accents.
His accent.
You know, sure. Are they right for today? Yes, to me, but not to everyone else.
I think you need that. That is a story. You need people from all over the world getting together, hanging out, enjoying some food.
Yeah, they're having a good time enjoying food together around the world, bringing people together through hamburgers and milkshakes and French fries,
coffee.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Great theme immersion, by the way. You know, you hit the targets, they bring in the thing. That's a great example.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, the
Champion Pub.
Champion Pub is great. Is as good theme immersion as you get. People love that game, even though you know, it's like it's not it's not a licensed theme, for example.
Right.
It just feels like, wow, there's a lot going on here.
Yes.
You know, but they got a lot of mechs that make you feel involved. So it's easy to do it. You know, the punching bag and
your training, jump rope. I mean, that's one of the coolest mechs in pinball.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to get people involved is through mechs, thick theme immersion. But you could do it even with code, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking before about. I'll tell you another example like that's missing. Just to go back to it because it's in my head. Moments. John Wick. Do you have a moment in John Wick?
Well, lights out.
Yeah, I guess it's lights out.
Yeah?
Ultimately, is like the only moment I would see where you guys gotta see this. You know.
Yeah.
I was thinking before about Sparky Multiball too.
Oh yes.
In Metallica, if there's one game that I bring a new player to who's never played pinball, and I want to give them a chance at feeling why pinball feels great, is I let them play Metallica and have them hit Sparky over and over again. I say, just hit that thing over and over again until something happens across 3 balls.
Right. Yeah, and along those lines, one of the ultimate moments, Attack from Mars.
Yeah.
destroying the saucer.
Yep, absolutely.
Just send it right up the middle.
And it's not an amazing mech. It's not like there's people think that game is full of toys and
It's a
stuff.
scoop.
It's not. It's a scoop.
It's a scoop.
That's it. Scoop behind a drop target, behind stand-ups. Now, stand-ups move up and down. That's the one mech. The other people say there's some moving aliens, but those are just on top of the stand-ups.
Right.
They're not actually doing anything.
Nope.
They're just dancing around.
Right.
There's almost no mechs in that game, in my opinion, and it's a great game.
And it feels like it's loaded with mechs.
Feels like it's loaded. It confuses you, to make you, and that's what great code can do. Great Lyman doing that on that one. But back to theme immersion, I was going to say. So we talked about good examples of theme immersion. We said like Jurassic Park is great for those reasons. Jaws with the horizontal spinning reel kind of thing. Pulp Fiction with the shot. Let's talk about King Kong for theme immersion. Here's where I don't think it succeeds either, to be honest. I'm going to say a lot of things it's great at, in the back half of this, but I don't think it's great at theme immersion. And I'll tell you, like, for me, why is, all right, so you take like King Kong multi-ball, like, why are you hitting those drops and then the center ramp and then the right orbit other than it being random series of shots? As opposed to, like, you could take some of the other things we said, let's say Jurassic Park, for example, you hit the raptor cage. And that's a defined raptor cage, to get the raptor multi-ball going. Right. There's clearly spelled chaos to cause a chaos multi-ball. But King Kong is just a series of shots, right? And then you think about, for me, like, what is the emotional connection? People might say it's silly to even ask this, but what's the emotional connection to King Kong, like, historically by people? Well, I don't want to answer it. To the extent that you have a connection to King Kong.
For me?
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I used to watch that movie over and over again, and I have a connection with the ape.
You feel the ape, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to hurt that ape.
Right.
And he loves
the poor ape.
Yeah, the poor ape.
And they take him to town. Like, he doesn't want to go
he doesn't
downtown.
Want to go there. He doesn't even want to, he doesn't want to climb the building.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
He has to.
He has to. He has no other choice.
I would too.
And it's also a love story.
Yeah.
He loves this woman, but it's taboo. You can't have giant apes loving women.
It's illegal.
It's illegal even in at least 48 states.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
he loves this woman, and she kind of loves him back eventually, depending on which movie you're watching. It takes time, as all things, all great love stories do, I'd love to take a digression and ask you about you and Rachel, your story, but we'll do it for another time.
It was a little easier than that.
A little easier than climbing up a building, I bet. But yeah, I mean, he loves this woman, and if you think about the whole game of like let's say that big thing that a lot of people feel connected to, like the love story about it, whatever. There's one singular mode called Save Anne, and so there is a nod to it, right? But there's like flat callouts that are blocked by everything else that are going on. And to save her, you hit a bunch of shots and hit the gong a few times, and I guess that's what happens. And it's not a focus, point. Yeah. Or like the point about, what you were saying, like he's taken to a place he doesn't want to be and he has to climb the building. And yeah, there's things attacking to him, but it takes a more campy vibe, to it in that game. And I don't think that the movies, the connection that people have to it, especially in recent movies, were campy. Like Peter Jackson's King Kong, wasn't campy, or like Skull Island stuff, like they took it seriously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or there was that Jeff Bridges one with the World Trade Center.
I didn't see those. I saw the Skull Island. That was just an action movie.
Yeah, that was just an action movie, especially because then they do like Kong versus Godzilla. Yeah, that gets a little bit pure action, But you could actually, I think you could have actually done that in the code. I think it sounds like I'm just saying something like, well, how are you going to do that? Well, first of all, like you could have, the art could have helped. Like, frankly, I think the art, you might have considered black and white in some areas at least for it to give you that old timey feel. You could have had it made more dedicated. So when you're saving Anne, everything else is shut down, and it makes it a moment that you have to actually save it, and how sad it is or something, and like sad. You know what I mean? You could have done something. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That's my theme immersion.
Great.
Anything else you want to say on theme immersion?
I think we covered it.
Okay. Let's talk about breadth as the next thing. So when I say breadth, I mean having a lot of different options right at the start. And this might be like an opportunity to give us a little bit of pinball history. Is that okay?
Yeah, go.
Can we do some pinball history?
Yeah, love it.
Modern games, we're not talking about classics. Modern games, if you want to break down the rules to people, usually tell them there are 3 M's. There's modes, there's multi-balls, and there's multipliers, right? And multi-ball, like the first multi-ball was firepower, and that was a cool moment just to get multi-ball. That was a moment back then, And modes, it's a bit of an argument of when modes started. You could say like the first Wizard mode was like Black Knight 2000, early, 1989. and that had like a wizard mode. But then Lights, Camera, Action, Gottlieb later in 1989 had like kind of actual modes. Probably to me like the best early mode game is Addams Family. Again, there's modes, they do different things. You clearly have to hit the chair to get them, and something happens. Like modes involve people, you know. And then multipliers, that's a bit more difficult history because there's bonus multipliers and shot multipliers and playfield multipliers, but a lot of things that tournament players more care about, right? Those are like your 3 M's. Fair?
Yeah.
And then Lyman, to me, was the one who brought an innovation of a 4th thing, the side quest, we'll call it, right?
Yeah.
A 4th thing called side quest. If you look at like Walking Dead, for example, which he revamped the code on, right? He went back and revamped the code on. You know, there's your modes, right? You hit the drop targets, and there's 5 modes, and they all have different rules. And there's your multi-balls. There's the Well Walker, there's the Bloodbath, there's the Prison. There's certainly your multipliers, right? The in-lane are shot multipliers, and there's a 2x, and that's fine. Right. All standard stuff for modern games. But he introduced the side quest, and that's going to be important to this conversation of breadth. And by side quest, I mean there's walker kills. While you're doing stuff, you're killing walker kills. Just like later on, you're getting Ghost in Ghostbusters by going through certain switches, you know?
Yep.
And so you get these walkers, and they contribute later on to getting your last man standing, you know, if you get enough walkers. So there's like a side thing going on at the time. And there's also multi-kill in that game. If you do well in a mode or well in different things like multi-balls, it awards you this multi-kill. And if you get enough multi-kills, you get into a horde mode, which is a cool mini wizard mode. You know what I mean?
Right, yes.
And those are great. And that's a great innovation from Lyman to bring in the side quest. I think Elwyn really took that and ran with it and generally perfected it, I would say, where like Iron Maiden, you have your cyborg multi-ball by getting ramps and spinners and targets, etc., right?
Right.
And then in Jurassic Park, he has the paddocks going on. And then in Avengers, you have your collect Avengers going on. Enough spinners gets Hulk, and enough of that shot gets Black Widow in the center ramp and that sort of thing, right? And so he really took that idea and ran with it. And I say all of that as preface to say that giving players lots of different things to do at the beginning of the game matters. That there's not just one way to play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that fair? I've stopped talking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is that in looking at some games, like you look at Evil Dead, for example, which has, by the way, great theme immersion and great moments, lots of them that we could get into. But even in breadth, it gives you, there's different multi-balls to go for. There's different modes. You even have the choice of different movies when you first start the game to choose, do I want movie 1 or movie 2 to experience that, you know? There's side quest. You could hit the captive ball to get insanity mode and spinner hits, and that builds up to its own thing. Or you could hit the hand on its own, separate from the mode, separate from the multi-balls, and that'll give you its own mini wizard mode later on called like Kitchen Fight, you know, for example. And so you could do this really, really well when you give people a lot of different options. And probably here, there's nobody better than Elwyn's games, I would say. If you look at every single Elwyn game, I wouldn't tell you there's one way to play it. You know, if you're on King Kong, how do you play King Kong? What do you usually do when you first start?
Well, just try to start a multi-ball. Well, of course, mode, then multi-ball.
Yeah.
You know, drop target. Well, we're on a pro.
Yeah.
So drop targets, lock 2 balls, start a mode.
Do that again.
Start your multi-ball.
And that works. That's a totally fine thing. But you could do a lot of other things in that game. You could go for these map segments. You could go for King Kong letters. You could go to climb. Some people focus on climbing the building, for example, to get to the New York City event and biplane attack. And we can get into all of that. But there's just a lot of choice in that game. And in Jurassic Park, I always want to bring that into this as like a great code, is there you have your T-Rex multi-ball and your Raptor and your Chaos multi-ball. But you could also start paddocks, or you could go for T-Rex modes on the captive ball, or you could go for control room modes. And there's no one way to play that game. You could just blow it up in lots of different ways. And it matters to give players choice, and it also matters to give them the right scoring on balancing there to make that happen. And so, like, those are all great examples. And King Kong, I'd say, is just like A+ on that. It gives you a lot to do.
No, but what about D&D? I mean, we can't talk about breadth without some D&D, right?
I think we can. You're right. Let's think about it. All right. Well, here's what I'd say.
I mean, how do you play that? You could tell people, hey, just go for the dragon multi-ball, or just go dungeon dwelling,
right?
Or just go to a town and do a mode.
Yeah, and they've updated that code a few times, but I think most tournament players would focus on the bottom right town in the bottom right, like potions for Nidar, and it's like 3 shots. And
is that chasing the dog?
Chasing that dog.
Chasing the dog.
Right.
That's what you told me to do. Yeah.
Right. And it ends up right. So my concern here is what I would say is breadth is a combination of having different options and having those options all be viable. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I would say, and that takes like a real smart tournament player like Keith, who understands like scoring matters in these things.
Right.
You know, if you just had an easy multi-ball that was worth a lot, like this, like for example, the pit multi-balls in King Kong, they're sort of easier to get than the other ones, and usually in most games.
How do you get that? Just hitting those pit
just
targets?
Hit it over and over again.
That's it.
Yeah. Or like in T-Rex multi-ball, if you just hit the captive ball a bunch of times, most T-Rex multi-balls in Jurassic Park or pit multi-balls in King Kong are easier to get than the other multi-balls, but they're worth less.
Okay.
And so that's also part of it, is you want to give players, so back to D&D, I think you want to give players a reason to choose the other ones. But the nice thing I'll say about D&D is that's a great example of theme immersion through rules, for example. Yes. So they have, if you hit the slingshots on a stealth mode, then the guards are alerted. That's really clever. It has nothing. Every game has slingshots,
right?
You know what I mean? And
yes.
they're using them to make a good theme immersion,
so
make you
cool.
feel like you're into them.
Right.
So it definitely gets credit in a lot of ways, and it does give you credit for giving you a lot of choices, that's for sure. But I do think it needs to be balanced more so that the scoring for those choices matters. That there shouldn't be like, if Travis Murray is making a video, shout out to Travis. If Travis Murray is making a video where he's telling you, do this thing at your launch tournament, if that video is under like 12 minutes, then there's something about the code that needs to be fixed.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
So that's breadth. That's my breadth conversation. I think we talked about King Kong. I think it does great there. I think all Elwyn games are great there. I think he's like especially good at breadth, and I think it's because he really perfected the side quest part of things as well as the modes and the multipliers and the modes and multi-balls and multipliers and all of that.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say about?
I think that's it. That's it.
We still good? We're still live here.
We're still recording.
All right, let's go on to. That's good. That's good news.
Yeah.
Let's go on to my fourth one, which is depth.
Okay.
And what I mean here is having stuff to do that is in the back half of the game that gives you a reason to keep playing. That, I'll take Evil Dead as a great example. In Evil Dead is if in the modes, if you beat 2 modes, it gives you a multi-ball. If you beat 4 modes, it gives you another multi-ball.
Right.
Then you could switch like a special mini wizard kind of multi-ball. And then if you beat those modes, you could switch to the other movie and get another 4 modes and also get a completely different mini wizard mode for the next 2 modes and a completely different mini wizard mode for the next 4 modes completed there.
And I had no idea that was all going on until we recorded Bat to Basics.
Oh, that's right. Our stream on Evil Dead.
We went over all that.
We did. We did.
I didn't realize it was so deep.
There's so much depth there.
It really is.
So if you're a home collector, I'm not saying people in an operator or an arcade, that's not for the operators necessarily. That's not necessarily for the location players. But the reason that game jumps in value, among other reasons, and there's so many, is there's depth there. There's breadth and there's depth. It gives you a lot to do. The multi-ball, if you do really well in all the multi-balls, it gets you to a mini wizard mode, which John Schoppel did get to on stream, the Hero from the Sky one, if you do really well in the multi-balls. And that was itself interesting, like innovation from the code. If you hit the hand a bunch of times, it gets you to a mini wizard mode. If you hit the captive ball and the spinner a bunch of times, it builds up your insanity meter, and that's a mini wizard mode. And then they give you multiple different insanity modes.
Right.
That it's just full of depth, and that's great. Elwyn also does a really great job here, and the code isn't complete for King Kong, but it already has tremendous depth. I'll give you an example. King Kong took the side quest and just went nuts with it. There's no game I could imagine that has more side quest than King Kong. So like Iron Maiden, it's Cyborg, and that's really it. That's the side quest. It's Cyborg. It's the pops and spinners and targets. And Jurassic Park, it's paddocks, and that's really it. But then, and Avengers, it gets a little bit more complicated. He's like, okay, get all the side characters. This is Raid Day 2. Get all the characters, the Avengers, to get them together. Avengers assemble, get the Soul Gem. But also there's this trophy mode going on, and there's Trophy Mania if you get enough trophies, and you're like, that's
that
crazy.
game. Come on.
Right, it's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
You've tried to explain it to me, and I'm gone.
That's a game I know the rules.
I'm out of here.
Right, it's not going to happen. Right, I can never explain that game. Even knowing the rules, I can't explain that game.
Right.
It's just not. It got a little crazy. But then on to King Kong. All right, here's what you got. You've got King Kong letters that you have to spell. There's whole reasons for that, how you get those letters. If you spell those letters enough, you get to the dead eye, the skill shot thing. If you spell them even more to the full King Kong, then you get the T-Rex, as like, we're talking about depth here.
Yeah.
Then there's climbing. If you climb enough, you get to the New York City event. And in the New York City event, you have a player choice of which New York City event you want. There's currently 3 there, for example. That's amazing. Then there is modes. And I'm sure eventually if you beat all 5 modes, there's going to be a mini wizard mode behind that, for example. And then there is, we already said the multi-balls. Then there's these things only Carl knows about and the coders for the game. But there's treasure and also island treasure. There's treasure hunt and island treasure. And they each give you different things. There's island treasure that gives you super modes, and there's treasure hunt that gives you high scoring and other rewards like double your bonus X or something, or make it easier to get multipliers. It gets complicated. Mm-hmm. That part is okay. We're going to get to the next criteria in a moment where I'll say it's not okay.
Okay.
But in depth, you just want to have a lot you can do from doing things, for doing the modes, for doing the multi-balls, for doing the side quest. Just give players stuff to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you look at John Wick, for example, right now there's not much depth. I could see where the depth could be. Almost in every game, if you beat the modes or play the modes, you get to something at the end of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that'll eventually be coded in. Fine. That's kind of standard. There's also these adversary modes, but to me, they're just most people don't get to even one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to have something if you beat all of the adversaries. But other than that, I don't see much going on that they could add depth to. I think the game lacks depth. Basically is what I'm saying. And I think it's also, with the code structure as is, even hard to achieve depth, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you, that's it for my depth.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope. We're
good?
Let's move to the next one.
All right. Next one. How are we doing? We're talking too much?
No, we're great.
All right, we're
great.
All right.
People are going to love this, man.
I'm a little obsessive, obviously.
This is what it's all about. I mean, nobody's heard this stuff before.
And these are the criteria. I think you need criteria. You need to check off how are we doing on these things.
Right.
King Kong, not great on the first 2, really great on breadth and depth.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, clarity.
Okay.
Here's where we get into clarity. Now, some people hear this word clarity and they think, oh, Serge wants a simple game. No. Clarity is not the same thing as simplicity.
Correct.
I love complex games. Yeah. You see what I'm all about. I love these rules. I love talking them. I love learning them.
Yes.
I eat it up. I could tell you all the JJP rules, right? That's not the issue. It's not like I don't get it.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's not clear. It's not clear in the game while you're playing. I get it because I understand the rules, but almost no player does when they're walking up to. And I'm going to go right off the bat, hot out the gate, saying JJP is literally the worst at this, of clarity. Does that make sense?
That's a popular opinion.
But I'm going to give you some objective criteria here, because otherwise it sounds like it's just a word, clarity. You know what I mean? I think you can actually measure these things. Here's how I'd measure it. Right? I'll give you a few metrics, and I think they should actually measure these. I don't have the time to measure. I did have a little bit of time, but I don't have the time to measure all these things. But here's some metrics for you. All right, number 1, how many inserts exist on the game?
Which one?
Literal inserts, like light. If you take the game and you lift it up, how many holes are in that playfield? For lights.
Which particular game?
Well, you take any Jersey Jack game.
Oh, just any of them.
It has,
it's insane.
It has insane number of inserts, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I like complex code. That isn't the issue. But if you need hundreds of inserts, like a Swiss cheese piece of wood, that poor piece of wood that's going through that. I feel bad for that tree.
For sure.
Going through all that process and getting all those holes in it for all these lights to go into. Right. They like it because it attracts people. Look at how bright this game is.
And you know what I'm worried about? The playfield warping in 30 years.
That's right. As an owner-operator, as yourself, that's something you don't love necessarily, right? So number 1 is number of inserts. Number 2 is how many lights are on at one time in the game. Mm-hmm. The more lights that are on, the more problematic it is. You don't need that. One of the things I love about Dune Code is that it doesn't have a million lights going on in the game. We're going to talk about I understand the exceptions that you might have to it, and we're going to mention them later on. But for a home player or somebody who's into the game and trying to understand what's going on, that game is perfectly clear. I think it's one of the clearest games on what you're supposed to do. While you're playing it, every game is complicated. You need to learn the rules, but that game's perfectly clear through the lighting. So how many lights you have on at one time, and JJP games obviously have the most lights on at one time, which means nothing is called out to you. You know nothing.
Nothing is
matters.
special.
Nothing is special when everything is special. It's like that generation that we were all to some degree part of, that gave awards for everything.
Right. Not me.
Not you. You're a little older.
I wasn't part of that.
Right.
You had to work for it.
Right. You got to work for that. Right. You know, we're not just going to give you those things, you know. Back then, parents didn't even watch their children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But award culture, that's what this is. It's just lots of awards.
Yeah.
And that seems like it's a nice idea to attract people, but it fails at the dopamine. That the recurrent dopamine. It works the first time. You're like, damn, look at that game.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to play Avatar when it first comes in.
For sure.
But it doesn't last. It's extinguished. There's no variable extinction in that game. Back to like operant conditioning. But let's not get into that, right?
Right.
So clarity matters. I'll give you another thing. We talked about number of inserts, number of lights, number of screen transitions is what I'll give you. Right? Look at the. Not everyone's looking at the display, nor should you while a game is playing. But if you look at a game and it's changing its animation every half a second, there's something wrong there. It's not giving you time to marinate.
Right.
You know, in that thing.
What player's looking at that?
Right. And what I think is that it doesn't mean you can't have multiple things going on, but you have to make something the primary and everything else is going on in the background. You know, if I'm playing Iron Maiden and we're talking about the side quest of pops and spinners and all of that, for the most part, that doesn't interrupt you while you're playing. You don't usually notice until it's like ready that you have achieved something along that side quest most of the time. Most players don't. And I think they code it in a way that it doesn't overlay with everything.
Yeah.
So part of it is, you know, making sure that not everything stacks with everything else. That's an obvious one. And JDB has traditionally failed at that. And they're like in most games starting off, people could say they like it. I don't buy it. I don't think that's likable. I don't buy that.
No, I'm with you on that.
Of people, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like Stern has a very solid formula of you could start a mode and then bring in a multi-ball, but you can't in most games bring in a multi-ball, start a multi-ball and then bring in a mode because the mode wouldn't matter. You wouldn't even know that you got in one most of the time. Like you play Godfather, most people don't know they're in a mode once they're in that hundreds of multi-balls, you know, kind of thing.
Yes.
So clarity matters. And maybe here's an example where I'll bring in King Kong. And this is going to be my hot take on this. You know, like I could tell you the rules of King Kong. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
But there's no clarity in that game as it's coded currently.
Right.
And maybe that'll change. You know, it's like 0.85, I think, something like that. But maybe that'll change. I love how much there is to do in the game. But everything goes on top of each other. When you're playing that save and mode, another climb is happening and it's going to tell you when you're hitting climb shots. And then your letters are happening and it's going to tell you that. And also your playfield multipliers and also your multi-balls and also all manner of the map the treasure hunt is going on at the same time, which other people don't even know about. Right. And then there's the island treasure, which other people don't even know about, and that's going on. And all of that, without even knowing why it's happening, will interrupt your immersion into it, and it won't be clear to you how it achieved that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And also, I think I haven't counted it per se, but if I'm doing it in my head now, looking at like in my mind the King Kong layout, like it has a ton of inserts. If you look at that. Right. Am I crazy?
Well, that's what sparked this podcast.
Right. You're right.
You were like, you brought me to King Kong.
I'm like,
and you're like, look at all these inserts.
Right.
You're like, what is going on here? Why do you need this many inserts?
No, you don't need that many inserts. I think it has like 20 for climb. It has 8 for the King Kong letters. It has another 6 to get to the wizard mode. You have to do 6 things, you know, at the beginning.
Is this the first Elwyn game like this?
I think it's the most. I think he's gone right to the razor's edge on prior games of being great before it hits that cliff of being way too unclear and confusing on what's going on. I think with every game, Avengers actually probably went past that cliff, in my opinion.
Right. And he brought it back in.
And he brought it back in.
Yeah.
You have like the soul gem, you know, you collect all the awards. But if I asked almost every player I know, even great players, tell me about the where you put the gem and why it matters on every shot. Tell me about your 6 gems and how reality differs from soul, from mind, and where you put it in.
Right.
Also, tell me about level 1, level 2, level 3 for each of those things. They couldn't do that.
Until Ray Day comes here.
Until Ray Day comes here.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into it with him.
Yeah.
And a lot of players can tell you, the really high-level players can tell you, like, oh, put the mind gem on center ramp. And they're right. You know, I'm fine with that. And we could talk about why that is for, like, strategy or whatever. Or put the reality gem on center ramp because, you know, it'll 2x, and that's a very common shot. And we could get into that. But they can't tell you all the gems and where they go. They're just not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, I'm sure what's all of that?
They have to make perfect sense to Ray Day.
Oh, I'm sure he has
and do you think he's thinking
mind.
like, Why are people having so much trouble with this?
I imagine it like a beautiful mind, that scene where it's like, you're connecting all the things, all the numbers to show that somebody has figured out the formula.
It's always sunny.
For the Nash equilibrium.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Jennifer Connelly, Russell Crowe.
Yes.
And that just, the guy is in real in the movie, Paul Bettany, I think.
Right.
Not to spoil it. But all of that stuff is 30-year-old movie. You know what I mean? It's a good movie.
Go check it out.
Check it out. It's a great movie. Check it out. I would say King Kong has way too many inserts, and if you look at the screen transitions, watch somebody play it and see how many times as they're just playing around, not a great player, just an average player walking around, see how many times the screen is changing. So it's never letting you focus on one thing and appreciate the thing. The side quests become just as much of a main quest as everything else, and rather than a side quest, they should be in the background. That stuff doesn't matter, and when something happens, you should be able to do something with it. I'll give you more how crazy that game goes in with the side quest, because we're talking about it. A lot of games have like secret combos you can get. Godzilla has secret combos you can get. If you do this spinner and then to that shot, it gives you a secret combo. That's all cool.
Right.
Jurassic Park does that too. They could award you like fossils if you make certain shots in order that are like secret combos. All good. I'm with that. But King Kong has 2 different combo systems. A lot of people don't know this.
Whoa.
One is called the banana combos.
But how do you know this?
No, I'm like one of these people. I'm like a crazy person.
Is this just from playing it?
Yeah.
Or consuming content?
I'm a professional pattern recognizer. That's my...
Okay.
If you're going to say one thing my brain does is I recognize patterns. That's it. Like, you need me to find an IED.
And that's all this is.
Driving around, Baghdad, I'm here for you.
Right.
I'm not
it's over there. Or it's at least in this area.
That looks different than it used to look like the other day.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm actually one of this isn't time for like humble bragging or whatever, but I'm going to tell you.
Go with it.
I'm going to tell you one thing that I might be one of the best in the world at. I'll tell you this much.
Go.
Do you know Mega Touch? The bar game, and I think there's one out there where you have to touch the screen.
Chewy has one out there.
They have a photo hunt, and also the erotic photo hunt version.
Which one do you prefer?
What kind of stream is this? A family stream or not a family stream?
We can make it whatever we want.
Right. Yeah. Well, you could guess, but there's different photo hunts, and you have to pick the differences in the picture. And I have like the top score in I'm from New York. I have the top score in every dive bar in New York. All across the land and Mega Touch.
Okay.
That's my thing. I haven't played it in years, but we go out there and Mega Touch, we're going to have a good time.
Okay, let's do it.
Seeing this. That's
You're
just
the
like
GC.
that's my jam. I don't know what you call that particular thing. That's what I do. Anyway, pattern recognition. Back to King Kong. It's got your banana combos, which is the secret combos that you get, shoot this shot to that shot. But it's also got the Kong combos, which is its own other thing, like keeping combos going. And I get that there are different rules. Somebody who the rules designer and who are great people. I'm not no shade. I'm just being honest with my feedback and hopefully polite about it.
Yeah.
But they could say that the Kong combos are different and they are designed to give you the power up, which they haven't programmed in, but they're going to add that to even add more complexity. Also, island locks one day adding complexity, they took it away and they're going to add it back. Like they're going to go even crazier than it already is.
Right.
And I like complexity, but if you have 2 combo systems going on, people don't get that.
Yeah.
They barely get the one combo system, going on. And then there's 2 of these treasure things going on. There's the treasure hunt, and then there's the island treasure. This is crazy. Do you know that?
No.
Can I even I'm going to say it.
Yeah, just go
so that
into
people
it.
can blank out while I'm listening to this.
Right. Hey.
On purpose. And that's my goal, is to get you to blank
Grab
out.
a pillow.
Grab a pillow. This is the sleeping part, but I want to show how crazy it is, is what I mean is. All right, so if you hit the gong 2 times, when there's at least 1 drop target up of the 4 drop targets, then it will light that center spinner shot for you to go, the ball to go around, go to the mini flipper, and then there's going to be 1 drop target lit. That's lit. If you hit that drop target, when that happens, then you will get your progress towards an island treasure. You do that.
Wow.
Same thing I said multiple times to get enough.
This is not the pieces of the treasure map.
This is totally
different.
It's
a whole different thing.
This is totally different. That's how insane it is, right? This is how insane it is.
I am blown away.
You should be blown away, right? You do that thing that I just said a few times, and that will unveil a stand-up target behind the drops with Gary Stern's face on it, which is fun. I like that little Easter egg. And then that gets you the island treasure. And then the island treasure are different super scoring modes, like super spinner, for example, or super combos. There are all these different super modes to it. So that's its own jam. That, if you get it, adds a multiplier to this completely different thing called treasure hunt, which we should get into now. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to get into it. Keep your pillow. Keep your pillow.
Go.
Don't get rid of that pillow. There's a treasure hunt in the game that's based on map segments. You have to get enough map segments to get the treasure. Now, you could say, well, how do you get those map segments before even getting to the treasure? And no joke, there are, I believe I counted 15 different things to get a map segment in this game. And it's very incestuous code. I'm going to use that word.
Yeah.
Where everything is layered on top of each other. So much so that you even though I understand the rules, I'm not going for that thing. It's just like happening, but then it interrupts me that it's happening, and then that thing's ready. And so, like, if you do well on modes, if you get to the level 2 modes, if you do well on the multi-ball, if you do well on the pit multi-ball versus the Kong multi-ball, if you get a bunch of 8 banana combos, for example, there are all these like 15 things you do that get you a map segments. And then enough, and again, keep sleeping here, chat, and dear viewers. If you get enough map segments, that lights the right eject, the concave, for your treasure hunt.
Yeah.
And then you're in the treasure hunt. And I want to reiterate that I don't mind that there's this level of complexity necessarily. But back to the clarity point. And then clarity and complexity are not mutually exclusive. You can have both. The problem with that treasure hunt, when you get to it, to the extent that people even know how to get to it, and that's a problem, is that when you're in it, everything else is running at the same time. The modes are running, the multi-balls are running. It's not its own special thing, like a cyborg, for example. Like in the cyborg, you get to it, everything else shut off. You're not playing a mode there. There's not 10 other arrows lit. It's that. You're in the cyborg.
Right.
And it's pretty clear what you have to hit in the cyborg. There's the different playfield features. You have to hit them again, and that lights the jackpot on like the captive ball on a premium or stand up on a pro. And then, that's cyborg. But here, you're doing this thing, and I watched Carl stream like the other day, and I'm sure maybe they'll change this. So in the treasure hunt, there are like yellow arrows to represent the gold arrows to represent the treasure. You have to hit this in this treasure hunt. And he was playing another mode at the same time that also had yellow arrows, and he could not tell where he was supposed to hit.
Wow.
And that's Carl D'Angelo. He's like, I don't see where I'm supposed to hit right now.
So he mentioned that.
He mentioned that himself.
Right.
And they could change that. They could fix the colors, but that won't do it.
We know for a fact Keith watches Carl's streams.
It's a great stream.
So he's aware of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe they'll change the colors of the arrows, but for me, it's a different problem. It's a problem of not making it special that you're in it. It's not clear that you're even in it when you're in it. Most people don't know that they're in it when they're in it.
Why is this happening? Is this happening because most of these games are going to the home and they want something deep? Because I've heard of even good players, they'll put their game on 10 ball.
Yep.
I've even heard of people putting their game on 10 ball and then putting rubber bands on the out lanes.
Right.
Just so they can
the glass off with the ball going. Right.
Well, I haven't heard of that far.
Right.
But just so they can experience all this.
Yeah, there is the pressure I think that's a great question. That's a 20,000 foot view question is saying, that as more percentage of games started going to home buyers, you started to need to make the game more complex to make something for those home buyers. And I love that. Yeah. That's great. That's really That's right. I think modern games should be getting complex. And that's a common argument I hear on podcasts and debate. Are games too complex? And I think what they really mean are games not clear. It's a different problem.
It's a good point.
I want games to be complex, but they should be clear. And back to Dune, and I'll say other things that are wrong with Dune later, but Dune has complexity. There is stuff there, but it is pretty clear when you're playing it, I think, as games go. If you played a few games on it, I think you would get what to do with the updated code. Shout out to Barrels. I think the Dune code is great, actually, other than the bugs that we could talk about later that make it not good. Yeah. But
that's the last topic.
Right, that's the last topic. Yeah. But a home buyer, this is a great game, and it's one of the greater codes out there. By the way, it has a lot of we'll get to some more things about it later. But anyway, clarity. That's what I say about clarity. Not mutually exclusive from complexity. You can have multiple things going on, but don't give it a million screen transitions. Don't give it a million lights at once. If you have a call out that says shoot everything, and I'm looking at you, JJP. Yeah. If you have a call out that says shoot everything, you are wrong. That's it. There is no other answer than you are wrong.
Right.
No call out should tell you to shoot everything. You've gone crazy at that point.
Okay.
This is not good rules design. Something has to matter that isn't everything. That's literally
even for a second. Even for 3 seconds of shoot everything.
I'm not saying you can't have a mode where like switch hits are there, like frenzy. I'll give you actually Pirates of the Caribbean, which is from JGP, which actually has a pretty amazing code. 22 characters is a bit much.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, but I'm not saying that part. But there's a mode called R Frenzy in there, and in that mode, exactly, you hit switches, and it just goes R, and that clues your brain in, maybe I should hit spinners because it's going to give me more R's, And if you have Jaws, then Jaws, there's Shark, where it goes shark, when you hit like different things. Great. It doesn't tell you, hit all the sharks, hit everything. It doesn't do that.
Right.
That's a good idea in code, the way it's done it. But in JJP, if in other games that aren't like the R Frenzy and Pirates, if you have shoot everything in like Willy Wonka, like you're just wrong. That's just that's not the right call out to tell people. Okay. You can make people feel involved with like R's or sharks, as call outs without beating them over the head that every light is lit and you have to shoot everything.
Right.
There's better ways to do it. So there's nothing against the mode as a rule, but it's the execution.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fair? Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. We've covered 5 so far. Do you still have energy, Cale?
I think we do.
I do if you do.
Let's keep moving.
All right. We've done clarity. Let's go to the next one. And these start to get into more of what tournament players care about, but a lot of players are both journey and along the journey and tournament players or score collectors, people who really care about that. So the next one is risk and reward. And what I mean here, to an extent, all games have a risk and reward inherently. So it's hard to say something is bad. I could try, but it's hard to say something's bad at risk and reward in that there's always another shot to hit that's worth something. But what I mean is giving the player an opportunity that something matters a lot more than other things. I was mentioning Dune earlier. In every mode in Dune, when you beat the phase 1 of the mode, it gives you an option. Do you want to go to phase 2? And phase 2 is worth potentially up to 500 million points if you play it well, for example, and maybe even more with the mode shots. And it's much harder, but you have an option. That's risk and reward. If you look at every Elwyn game, they are like just infused with risk and reward at all levels. Jurassic Park, my favorite, all-time code. If you play the most common multi-ball people get into is you bash the T-Rex a few times and you're ready for T-Rex multi-ball. And then there's that decision. Should I hit the left ramp to start the T-Rex multi-ball, or should I hit all the other shots to build up the jackpot value on a hurry? And then it counts down, so it makes you feel amped up, you know? And that's and has the 2x stand-up, which is, even when it's lit, it's a 2x multiplier. It's not a 40x multiplier, but it's a 2x multiplier. Right. We get into that too, because I think you go too far, frankly. But there's that 2x side stand up, and if you hit it, you might drain because that's a hard shot to hit and it's a hard shot to recover from. But you get it to 2x, it's worth a lot more. In virus attacks in Jurassic Park, you can hit the C shot, that dead end left shot, and that collects an award. But you could build up millions, 3 million, 4 million, add 5 million to it by hitting other shots before you hit that shot. So Keith does that in all his games. In King Kong, that's super infused into King Kong. Every single mode, like I think it's Stegosaurus mode, has an easy shot that's worth points, but a hard shot if you want to hit it instead on a different path to get even more mode points. Yeah. And this shot's, if you hit the punchback and then hit the ramp as it's coming back, it adds value to the punchback shot you just hit, for example. Or in King Kong multi-ball, if you hit the green shots, then it adds 2x playfield to your multi-ball. Let me pause there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
That's my risk and reward. Do you like risk and reward?
Who doesn't? Right? I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah. No risk. Yeah. You got to risk it for the biscuit.
Well, you're taking risk. You're playing a game that costs $1. Yep. There's your immediate risk. Right. Because I might get 3 Drainos. Right. I might get 3 house balls. Right. That's where the risk starts. Yeah, you're right. Well, you know what, though? I reminded to say one more thing about clarity because I just mentioned King Kong. King Kong multi-ball. This is a perfect example of poor clarity. The multi-ball starts, and some people don't know. I mean, you might know this. Do you know how you get jackpots, how you light jackpots and get them in that game? Those tiny stand-ups. No. No? Well, this is what you have to... You get into King Kong multi-ball, and no jackpots are lit. Okay. Instead, you have to hit the drop targets to light the jackpots. So they make it... unless you hit all the drop targets down, there are no jackpots in that multi-ball. Which itself I don't hate as a rule, if it's clear to the player and it's not clear to the player. But by itself, it doesn't say like shoot the drop targets to light the jackpot or something. Yeah. If they want to do that, this? How do you know that otherwise, right? But they do something worse on the clarity point. They do something much worse. They give you green arrows that are lit around the playfield, and to anybody who's walked up to that game,
people think to shoot that. They're sure that's what you have to hit.
Right.
Those aren't jackpots. They're worth like minimal points. If you get those, it lights the center ramp for you to get 2x on your jackpots if you got the drop targets to light the jackpots.
You're kidding me.
So all the green arrows do, which are the only thing lit when you start that multi-ball, is set you up for 2x. So it's like a lot of focus on the risk and reward without focus on the clarity. So that's why I was thinking about it in this segment, because I get the risk and reward. Do you want to go for the green arrows? And that could get you your 2x. If you're on a premium, it'll lock the ball in the train so that you could have 2x while it's locking a ball. That's fine in theory, but it's at the expense of clarity in that game.
So you're telling me in the King Kong multi-ball,
The main multi-ball.
I need to knock down the drops.
That's right.
That's what I need to worry about.
Yeah, or you're not getting
How many
jackpots.
times?
Just once, but all of them.
Just once, and then hit these green shots?
No.
Don't do that.
You could ignore the green shots and hit after you hit the drops, red shots will show up.
Who knows this?
Like, not that many people is what I mean. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of players or people who are listening who know it.
Travis Murray knows it.
I get that Travis Murray knows it. That's not the issue.
Right.
Tom Graff, they know this. And Joel, if he streams it a lot, may know this, you know? But shout out to Joel.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, it's not obvious, and you don't want to have two competing color arrows when you start a multi-ball, one of which the jackpot isn't even available when you start the multi-ball.
Right.
You show this other thing that has nothing to do with the jackpots other than prepping you for 2x on those jackpots. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You get why that's mad.
Yes.
Does that perfectly say
That's crazy.
why that game fails at clarity?
Right.
That's why. That's the example. And I'm back to risk and reward. It doesn't fail on risk and reward. It's great on risk and reward.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned just now that concept of, do you want to get the green arrows to get your 2x? But on the New York City event, which people don't even necessarily know how to get to, you know, you got to climb enough and beat up.
I did it on accident.
You did an accident, right? Yeah. When you get to it, it gives you different choices of how you want to play the multi-ball. It's close to being confusing, but I still like it. Where you can play you pick a mode. There's like one of 3 modes, right? That you could pick. Totally separate from that, you pick how you want to play that mode. So that's what confuses people and always will confuse people. But so there's 3 different modes. There's like there's Manhattan Rampage and window shopping. I forget. And there's 3 ways you could play the mode. The 3 ways you could play the mode are: you could play it as a multi-ball, but if you do that, it's only worth 1x, like a 1x value.
Wow.
You could play it as a flip count, where you only get 1 ball, but you have a flip count. And you could keep playing it. You could even drain, and you're okay. But as long as the flipper count doesn't go down to 0, you know, if that makes sense, like Soul Gem mode, for example, in Avengers, and you can keep playing, and that's 2x, but it's a single ball.
So then once you get to that flip count, you're out of the mode.
And then you start your. Then it lets you play again. You know, the rest of the game. And then there's a 3x version, which is a single ball timed mode, but your ball save will run out soon, and then if you drain there, you're done. So you could drain out, and then you could lose that mode, as opposed to like a multi-ball. You could lose the balls and you're okay as long as you have 1, and the flip count, you could just go down to 0 and you're okay. But the 3x, if you want to take it there for the risk and reward, you'll get 3x the value in a timed single ball mode. And so, like, Elwyn games always are great at risk and reward. Every single mode, every multi-ball, everything is infused with risk and reward. I'll tell you an example like where I think Evil Dead could be better is they tied their 2x, and again, if you're a Journey player, you don't care about any of this, right? Evil Dead, a great game. But they tied their 2x multiplier, the risk and reward part of multipliers of the game, to the left orbit, and it's you have to get lucky when you hit the left orbit. It has to bounce around to stand-ups that you cannot see. And if you get those stand-ups, you get 2x. And people don't even know that it's happened, you know, when it's happened most of the time. And so, not everything has to be A+. And that is an example where I don't think they succeed at the risk and reward too much of that game. They succeed in so many other ways, but not that way. That's what I would say. So that's my risk and reward kind of topic. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think you made it very clear.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, King Kong A+, risk and reward. No issue there. All right. The next category is, and we're up to number 7 for you people counting, at home.
And we'll have this all on the screen.
We will.
Yeah.
Well, I won't, but you will put it on. That's not my thing. Is not the post processing.
Right.
That's you and our wonderful producer
guy.
Rachel.
Yeah.
And so then number 7 is fair and balanced, and I mean a few things here. When I say fair, I mean, and this is especially for people who care about scoring. When I say fair, I mean, does a choice by one player affect the other players in the game? So you take Godfather. When you pick one family and it locks other people, I get why they like it. They think it's thematic immersion. You can't be the same family.
Yes.
But people who play tournaments don't like that. And they will not put that game in their tournament for that and many other reasons. But that is one of the reasons.
You know, at our Tuesday night, league night, not the one before last, we had a 5-way tie for first place. Now, on paper, they're all first place, right, when it comes to the league.
Yeah.
But we had to have a tiebreaker for the prize. Somebody gets a T-shirt.
Yep.
And so since there were 5, I was like, Rachel, why don't we just have them play Scooby-Doo? Where you have to pick characters.
Hey, there's 5 characters. You can play a 5-player game in that.
That's right. Sounds like a good idea. And it was, because it's just for a T-shirt, right?
No, it's just for a T-shirt.
It's just for a T-shirt, but you get different perks depending on which character you choose.
Right, Scooby-Doo.
And when we did a post and we talked about
You seem like
that,
a Shaggy guy, by the way.
I like Scooby-Doo.
No, I don't mean in the pinball. I mean in
real life.
Yeah, in real life.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think you're accurate. But we had somebody made a comment because we talked about it in a post on social media, and somebody said, well, how is that fair?
Yeah.
And I explained, well,
it's not an IFPA points necessarily.
Yeah. They all got first place. It's just for fun. And what a fun way to win a T-shirt to play a 5-player game.
Right.
But that, much like Godfather, that's a game where there's an issue.
Yep. You pick a character, somebody else can't play it.
Yeah.
They don't feel good about that. And you'll see people on like Tilt forums like blow up about it.
What other games are like that?
Pirates, JJP Pirates,
Okay.
where in JJP Pirates, there are 22 characters, a little crazy, but fine, let's say. But you can't play the same character. So if you're playing one character, is like there are characters that are much, much better than the other ones. There's one character that makes all your multi-ball saves last longer, a lot longer. So and that game has 6 different multi-balls.
Everybody's fighting for that character.
Everyone's fighting for that. That's the game where you want to go first. You pick that character, and let's say you get into one. Let's say you don't know the rules of that game. You get into one multi-ball in that game. If you have that character, I bet before like 1 minute is up, you're already in 4 other multi-balls.
What is that character so we know? Do you remember?
Okay, I appreciate putting me on the spot like that. I'm going to claim Barbarossa. But I'm going to give you a 60% confidence on that answer.
Well, all right. Well,
not 100%.
Well, the comment section will check.
Yeah, it's like one of the villains. He was like, I think it was Jeffrey. The actor was Jeffrey Rush. I'll say that.
Ooh.
The answer is whoever Jeffrey Rush was playing.
Well,
is that fair?
Deep cut.
Right. That's a deep cut.
That works.
Right. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Deep cuts. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, what games do this right? Like Venom, right?
Yeah, Venom does it.
Because anybody can pick.
Yeah, Venom does it right. I don't mind picking characters, right? That's okay. And, like almost every Dwight game, you pick a character, right? No doubt. But make it so everyone can play the same character. Don't be insane.
Now, when we can't talk about Venom without one of John Schoppel's biggest gripe with Venom. You put it in competition mode.
Yep.
Only people who have unlocked Ghost Rider by playing a game with a topper get to use it.
That's nonsense, and he's right.
Okay.
Full stop. He's right.
Here, yeah.
We need fairness in games.
Yeah.
Right? That's like obvious. It doesn't matter to a home buyer who's playing. I get that. But if you're making, like we started with this, you're making a game for everyone. You just can't do that. You have to make a game. You don't want to cut off a segment of the population that is really into fair games for tournaments.
Right.
Like why would you want that? Wouldn't you want your game on stream at Indisc? Wouldn't you want it being shown to everyone? That would be great for you. So why wouldn't you do that? It just never makes sense to me, that way.
Right.
So make the game fair.
Ultimately, don't log in.
Yeah, don't log in
during a tournament.
Right. That's true. But back to like those JJP games with characters, like that has nothing to do with logging in. That's just the setting on the game is like they think that's thematic immersion, and perhaps it is, but thematic immersion. None of these criteria can come at the expense of other criteria. They're all important. The ranking, going through 10, I'm not saying one is more important than the other. That way. But you were mentioning Venom, and we were talking about fair and balanced. And balanced is another point I could say here for balancing is like is scoring potential, let's say. And so do you have one shot that you have to hit all the time, for example? Or, I was thinking like other Dwight games. Let's say you have Mandalorian. It's crazy to make the most valuable shot in the game the easiest shot in the game. So, for example, in Mandalorian, or some people will call it Middleorian, right? The easiest shot in the game is the middle shot, right?
Right.
Anyone can hit that shot.
Yes.
That's the way you get a multi-ball.
Go for it.
And then they'll say, well, I know how we'll make it harder. We'll take more shots to get the multi-ball. But it's still the easiest shot in the game.
More of the easier shot.
More of the easier shot.
Right.
So one thing that Elwyn is one of the best at is making you use all the shots on the playfield for everything. In Chaos, multi-ball, you have to get Chaos. You have to get that O.
That's so much fun.
And it's so much fun.
Holy crap.
Right.
Yeah.
If you look at Dwight games and games I really like for other reasons or whatever, well, Star Wars I don't, but like as an example of Star Wars, like how often do you shoot the left orbit in Star Wars?
It's been so long, I don't even know.
Right. You don't even know. Right. Good. Well, you know what? We're not here. We don't have Star Wars in this arcade, probably for a reason. Right. But so maybe I shouldn't point to that. Or like hit the right orbit and try to get those pop bumpers that people don't even know are there, in Star Wars. What? They're there, right? I know. There are shots in Star Wars that people just don't go for.
Right.
And you play the entire game. Most tournament games, you watch people play Star Wars, and there might be like one or two hits to, like people who are skilled, there's like one or two hits to the orbits.
Yeah.
Maybe the outer orbits,
Yeah.
That's just crazy. You don't want to make a game that's unbalanced where one shot is worth more than another. If you think about, so you want to make, in general, the harder shots worth more in progress, worth more in score. If you look back to Jurassic Park, best overall code of all time, in my opinion.
Yep.
We talked about the smart missile shot, but bringing it as a moment, but bringing it back here, it's worth a lot. You could start a whole chaos, collect chaos. You could start a whole raptor. You could get your outlanes lit. You could get extra ball, whatever it might be, by hitting that target plus a whole bunch of millions of points, like 30 million points, by hitting that target. And it's the hardest shot in the game, to scoot by the truck and the captive ball right on your way there. The easiest shot in the game is the left ramp. But one of the things he does that's really smart is as the game progresses and you get farther, and people don't necessarily even realize this, that left ramp is lit less and less and less as you go on. If you get to like the first paddock, the first dinosaur mode, you'll often have a rescue, for example, lit on that left ramp. And that's good. It's the easiest shot in the game. It's not a gimme, but it's an easy shot in the game. If you get to later on dinosaurs, that are harder, you don't always have it lit on that. You have it hit on the hard shots, like the side loop, for example, or the O shot or whatever it is, or the right ramp. And so it's just, you want to make the easier shots of your layout worth less to encourage people to hit all around the playfield. Is that fair?
Yes. Yep.
Fair and balanced. Just thinking about balancing of games, if there's anything else. Yep.
Let's bring up a classic that is not fair and balanced.
Okay.
Knight Rider.
Yeah. You mean the old,
straight off the rip.
You were saying the 80s classic.
Yeah.
Right.
EM or solid state.
Because if you go player one, there's a deep cut to Knight Rider. There's a double bonus where that's always lit when
straight off the rip
on the saucer, but it's only lit for player one on the rip, and then player two, it's going to be different depending on where it was left. And so that's an example. And classic games often aren't balanced, and sometimes they have issues in tournaments, like for lock stealing, for example, that people don't like. I give classics a pass because they're like, obviously, I'm not going to complain about coding 40 years ago. You know what I mean? Right. I'm not a monster. You know what I mean? I'm talking, and games aren't also $10,000 back then.
Right.
But if you're releasing a $10,000 game now, you better make it fair and balanced.
Yeah.
Like what are you doing otherwise?
Come on, Godfather.
We're looking at you. And so no issue there with King Kong bringing that in just to every one of these categories. That's an A+. To me, there are many, many ways to play that game. There's many scoring opportunities in that game. And oftentimes you want scoring opportunities that become almost exponential over time, or at least, if not exponential, like proportionally higher. And what I mean by that is, in that game, if you play it for like 10 minutes, let's say, you might get over 100 million points. But if you play it for 20 minutes, you might get like 400 million points, and that's, there's a lot of reasons for that, how they do that. We get into treasure hunts are worth more as you get the later ones. The super modes that I talked about with island treasures, which I know nobody knows how to get to, like the super spinner is the more valuable one, but that's on the second one, not the first one. Like there's a lot of real obvious thought put into the structure of the game to make it balanced that way. So that's an A+, but all L1 games are going to be an A+ on the risk and reward and the fair and balanced part of things. That just is not an issue.
Right.
Ever going to the games. You always have to worry about those games in Dwight games. In my opinion, he does a lot of other things. Like we were saying before on fair and balanced. You get into an ambush mode in that game on Mandalorian, where the white shots are all flashing, and 9 out of 10 players, if they know the game, at least, will trap up and just wait for it to go out of that's
timeout.
The timeout, and that means like it's not a good mode. You know,
Right.
Boba Fett is the same in Star Wars. It's coded almost pretty much the same, where it times out. In Game of Thrones, you often have like winter is coming. A lot of some tournaments, like really high level tournament players will go for it, because if you get a bunch of those, you get its own multi-ball. But a lot of most tournament players will time that out too.
For sure.
You know, because it's just an extra shot,
And then
it's not
in,
giving you that much. It's worth like 5 million
Galactic
points.
Tank Force at Indis.
Oh, there we go.
Everybody was timing out.
Escher times out every single. Was that Escher? I think it was Escher.
It was, yeah.
He's timing out every. I respect why he's doing it. You timing out every single mode because he wants to get to the wizard mode, and that's just a bad structure. You don't want you don't want a game where you're timing out modes.
Right.
But
But it's
you fail.
Galactic Tank Force.
GTF.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But it comes with a lunchbox, Kale.
It does, and they're
And a
real
thermos.
cheap right now.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't. You know what?
I think you can get one. You can get one new in box for like $7,000.
That's nice.
That's a deal. You might get one.
I'm not in.
Okay.
Right.
Somebody.
Although I
needs
was
to
one of the
be.
few people that kind of enjoyed it. Well, here I did kind of enjoy it. I've said it before. I did kind of enjoy it. I think whatever we can get into GTF. That's another. We'll get it maybe out with my last thing, the bugs, point to talk about.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so that's what I mean by fair and balanced. Is that anything else you want to add to that?
That's it. Let's move on.
All right, we're in category number 8. We're getting down to the wire, people.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, we're doing it.
The grand finale.
All right, yes. So we're on innovation is what I would say for this next one. And you could innovate in code. I mentioned it earlier how Lyman, to me, came up with the side quest, as an option when we were talking about Walking Dead. It's one of the things that makes Walking Dead great. There's a lot of things that make it great. He also made the targets worth different things. If you get them, different targets worth different things. It's really brilliant code. Side quests were an innovation. But you could say, like, are you really asking for something new and different every time? And yes, actually, I am. I think you have to actually impress people with something that they haven't seen before. And I'll give you some examples there. Jurassic Park, I love to always bring it up, as what I believe to be the best overall game. I think, and I might be wrong on this recollection, I think it was the first game to allow you to pick the wizard mode right from the start as an option. If you hold in both flippers and move the flipper around, you know what I mean?
Was that the first?
And it's Escape Nublar, and it allows you. And he does it with all his games now subsequently, like Jaws. For example, you could play other modes and other interesting side quest modes. Jaws might have been the first to add a completely different. Not even the wizard mode, but another thing, the shark it's 8-bit shark that's moving around. Yeah. That's an innovation, for example. So, the games still have opportunity to innovate. And even in back to Jurassic Park, so that's like one innovation, is just letting you play the wizard mode.
Yeah.
But in the game itself, to get to the wizard mode, among other things, you have to follow the truck path, right, to get out. And it lets you change the path, on your way out. You can move the car, which is like a passive captive ball. It's not an expensive mech, right? Yeah. But it's highly immersive, and it gives the player choice of how you get to that wizard mode. Do you want to take the easy path through the side dinosaurs? Those are easier ones. Or do you want to go through your T-Rex, which means it's really going to be harder to get to the wizard mode. It's harder to defeat the T-Rex, but it gives you a lot of perks for it if you get through it, for example. So like that's an innovation. If you look at Evil Dead, which to me is like loaded with innovation in that game, there's a few things that are like not specific to the game. So, for example, if you hold down the action button, it does a ball search for you. How did nobody think of that before? If you're in multi-ball on Stern games,
so good.
You have to get somebody to trap up, and then somebody has to come and relieve the ball.
Yep.
On Evil Dead, you hold down the action button if you're trapped up with one ball, and it will knock the other ball out.
Yes.
Just by holding down the action button. That's a pretty damn smart innovation.
It's like really nice.
In retrospect, it's like an obvious idea.
The shotgun shells.
Shotgun shells is another great one. That's like in-game innovation. It's the first game I could think of where to get the multi-ball, you have to hit the first shotgun shell, then the second one. But the innovation is that you have to hit both of them at the same time afterwards.
Right.
And I can't think of a single game that required you to hit 2 shots at the same time. It sounds like such an obvious thing. But it's also it's an innovation. It's also immersive, right? Because you have to load both shotgun shells at the same time.
So cool.
Go into the basement, shoot it around. It also makes for a moment, by the way, in that game, because when you're in the multi-ball, it goes ready, aim, and then it gives like a call out from Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
Where and it's a different call out each time, and it that's your fire, and you have to press it.
Right.
And what I love about that, by the way, is it's not like it's worth a lot of points. That's not the thing. It's just a moment because it's on a hurry up and it feels like you have to do something. You have to time it.
Yes.
It involves you in it, But on the innovation side of things, and that's already innovative. If there's like, when do you launch the ball? That's
right.
that's actually pretty smart.
Right. For sure.
And hitting those 2 stand-up targets at the same time, the shotgun shells, that's innovation in code. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And we can't mention innovation without Stern Insider Connected, which has allowed
you're right there.
Saved progress.
Saved progress is a cooperative move.
I mean, that's the next
progress.
move. That's it.
Yeah, that's innovation, no question about it. And Gomez has said himself, like the thing he might be best known for at the end of his career, which hopefully has many years to go more, because he's a great designer, is and a creative thinker, but is just his Insider Connect, his leadership there, because it's really involved people. It makes people more into the game than almost anything else, right?
Yes.
You're a fan.
Yeah, huge fan.
Right. And you're a fan because it brings in money.
It brings in money. It works. People love these badges.
Right.
And the achievements.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
dopamine hits.
Huge game changer. But it is executed so well.
Yeah, they executed well for the player, for the operator, all of that. And then, so even thinking about, let's say, we're talking about innovation in code. I'll give you King Kong has innovation in code, because we have to bring King Kong into each of these. I've seen flip count modes before, as an example in Avengers. If you collect all 6 Avengers, you get to the Soul Gem. Yeah. And you have a certain amount of flips. And when you get to 0, your game is done. If you drain a ball, it just minus 5. Yeah, Rick and Morty is good there too. And then in King Kong, the innovation is a very specific thing, is that when you get into your New York City event, you could choose the mode flip, which is worth like 2x value on your New York City event. Fine. But they tied the flip count independently to the left and the right flippers. So you could use all your left flippers up and still have right flips. And if you can keep the ball alive, the game's not over when you're at it. So you're out of left flips versus right flips, one or the other. That's never been done before. It's a small thing. Yeah. But code can still be innovated, and that's an example. There's still new ideas out there. And I think every game deserves new ideas. Yeah. It's things you just haven't seen before. Yeah, you know what I mean? I think just thinking of like Dune has some other things. That Dune is a great example, actually. An innovation.
The pain box.
Pain box, exactly. Yeah. It provides a moment. It's cool. Yes. First of all. It's immersive. Everything shuts down, and you have to put your hand on the center button.
And it has to be your hand.
Yeah, it can't be your gut.
I know. People have tried it.
Right. A lot of guts in pinball.
I've seen people try to get around this.
Yeah, there's a lot of big guts in pinball. Lord knows, right? But they don't go to your jujitsu classes,
No. But there's some big guts in there, too.
There's some big guts in there.
Yeah, it takes guts.
It takes guts. You're right. Yeah. You're darn right. And so you have to hold the button down, and then with the other hand switch left to right. Yes. And that's very clever because you have your one hand stuck in the pain box. So it's a moment. It's very theme immersive. Yes. Using code. It's not the mech isn't what's amazing. It's not fancy. Right. It's not like a cannon firing or anything, which is all great.
You're using what is in every game.
2 flippers and an action button. That's it. Anyone could have done that, right? But they make it matter. They make it matter. So one shot is lit. It's clarity, first of all. There's clarity there because a singular shot is lit on the left orbit, I believe, and you have to hit that one shot, and it's very clear. That's the one shot. Everything, it's only that is lit. Yeah. The call outs are pure. It's just talking about that. There's not 100 other things going on at the same time. It's just that, And so it ticks off all the boxes, but it's also an innovation. It's just like, I haven't seen a mode that does that. I've seen some interesting other modes that was like, I should say here that if you notice this whole conversation, I didn't bring up the P3, which is loaded with innovation. The only reason I didn't bring it up, honestly, is I've never played one. I play a lot of games. Never? I would love to play a P3. I'm not a hater. I don't know.
They're cool.
I'd be up for. I know why it might not work for an arcade. I get that.
Can you come to Expo this year?
I think I could come to Expo.
We would have a good time.
I went to Ace Gogi in LA one time.
There's no P3?
They had a P3, but it was down.
Oh, that's the problem. Yeah. They have issues.
I don't know. I can't speak to it. Yeah. But that's the only reason. If you're wondering, like, how come he's not mentioning the P3, which is like known for innovation, let's say. I grant that. I just haven't played it, and I want to play it.
No experience.
No experience.
Asterisk. Yeah.
Come back in a future episode. I'd love to play a P3 game.
We will play some P3 if you come to Expo.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm in.
Deal.
Will it be down?
No. No, because there's somebody there to make sure it's running.
Okay, good. So that's my innovation corner. It's hard to say something could be bad at innovation, but I'll go out on a limb on saying some innovation. So I talked about Jurassic Park, what's innovative about it, King Kong, some good games. I think a lot of code structure, especially from like earlier Sterns, and especially sometimes, I'm here to speak real, right? Yeah. From like Lonnie games, for example, are the same code structure over and over and over again. you have a bunch of, in Aerosmith, you have a bunch of modes. If you go through the modes and just play them, you get to a multi-ball. In Guardians, if you go through, and there's 8 modes, in Guardians, if you go through those modes, you get to a multi-ball, like a mini wizard mode. But if you beat the modes and do well in multi-balls for Aerosmith, you get to this other thing. And if you beat the modes and you beat the, a multi-balls and get like jackpots in it, in Guardians, then you get to that multi-ball, that wizard mode. It's like very similar code structures, and that's used in other games too. And to an extent, that's like earlier Stern games when it wasn't all in the home environment necessarily.
Right.
And so I give a pass there. But at the same time, Lord of the Rings came out quite a long time ago, also in the early phase. And boy, that game has innovation and a lot of other things going on. So I can't give it too much of a pass. So there can be bad innovation or lack of innovation, I should say. Is that fair?
Yeah.
We good?
Yeah.
We good on innovation?
Yeah, I think we did it.
Let's do number 9. Should we leave them hanging for number 9? No, should we keep going?
What is number 9? I forgot.
Yeah, I know, but it's in here. I was so close. And what I mean by that is pacing. Another way to say that is pacing. How are the things laid out in the game? What I mean there is if a game, for example, starts you off with multi-balls, like right away, or 1 shot or 2 shots gets you in a multi-ball, that's not good pacing. That's not a good game. I get why they do that. They want to get the novices into the game. They want to attract people.
What if you choose?
But you won't keep the novices.
What if you choose like Guardians?
Yeah, that's a good game to talk about. Now, Guardians is okay because you're ish. I'll tell you why it's not. It is and it isn't. So Guardians, to your point, you can choose any mode you want when you start Guardians. Fine. I like the player choice. And you could choose Quill's Quest, which a lot of people do. Fine. Because that's a multi-ball and it gets you a feel for the shots. In theory, that's good. But if you've ever watched ZMAC play, current number 3 player in the world, great guy to watch.
Yeah, what does he do?
I'll tell you what he does on a tough playing Guardians, right? Where it's like, you're not going to blow up the game necessarily, but on a tough playing Guardians, here's what he does. He plays Quill's Quest. He holds both balls during the ball save time, traps both balls, waits the 100+ seconds for the Quill's Quest timer to go down. So then the mode is over officially. But he still has 2 balls.
Brilliant.
Then
I'm doing that next time.
If you want to do that on League Night and make everyone angry.
We don't have a Guardians, I'm gonna do it somewhere.
Wait,
I'll tell you what.
It gets worse. It gets worse. So he takes the 2 balls, and this is a shout out to him. This is not shade. I think this is impressive that he does this. I love that he does this. Right? He knows how to exploit games. Great. I'm just saying games shouldn't be exploitable. You should be able to patch. You should be able to figure out a way to patch that out. It's not balanced if it's exploitable. And so what he does, he'll trap those 2 balls. He'll wait for the 100+ second to time out. Then he'll take 1 ball on the left flipper and repeatedly hit Groot to prep Groot multi-ball. Now, in the game, it does not let you start Groot multi-ball if you have the 2 balls. Okay. It just lets you prep it, get 1 shot away. So he gets 1 shot away. Yeah. And then he'll just like do other things like hit the stand-ups or whatever to get his action button going. He'll just like prep things. Then he'll drain out of one of the balls. Then he'll start a new mode and bring in Groot right away. Does that make sense?
Absolutely brilliant.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It shows an example of an exploit in the game that should have been thought through. It gets even, I'll say while I'm on Guardians.
They're not going to update that game.
They're not going to update that game. I got it. Right. Bobly Bobo. You know what I mean? But they're not going to do that. But I'll say another thing about it. Like another ZMAX strat that shows back to balancing on the game, and again only props to the strat. So then what he'll do is he'll pick after he's done that. He plays well in the mode. He traps up. He starts another mode. He traps the ball and he times it out. And that game doesn't pause modes because there are like sound clips playing and like they want to involve you. They want to involve you in the game. In the movie and the theme, and I get that, but you can't. It doesn't pause the timer. So he catches the ball and times it out. He does that with all 8 modes. He times them all out. Can take like 20 minutes of cutscenes, to go through. Yeah. Because if you do all 8 modes according to the classic Lonnie structure or whatever, then you get to a wizard mode. Like I think it's Save Xandar.
It's not a good tournament game.
Or Immolation Initiative.
Leave this game out of your tournaments.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. If you have a high level player like that, that's what he's going to do, and I get it.
Yeah. Or just a high player.
Yeah. That's right. So that's a bit unbalancing. But back to what we were saying, I was so close. On a good example, any Elwyn game you've ever played, you're going to get people, and I think we said this at the beginning, you're going to get people at the end of that game, and they're going to say, man, I was so close to that one shot.
Yes.
And it bums them out, but it also makes them want to try better and do better and play again.
Chaos multi-ball.
Right. Oh, I had the S and I just couldn't hit that stand-up.
Right.
I had it spelled chaos, but it was just that stand-up was lit. Could you believe it?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I had one more shot and the control room was lit and I was almost there. Or like, you know, I had the Raptor, it was lit and I was just one shot away. You're always one shot away in any Elwyn game. You're like always 1 or 2 shots away. In Godzilla, in everything, level 1 modes, level 2 modes, you're always one shot away from something. I had the Mecha Godzilla ready. I had whatever it is. And so the bridge multi-ball, you're always one shot away. And I think that's brilliant design.
Yes.
That's saying pacing people to always being close to, getting something.
We had a conversation about this on the round table with Jamie and Ralph. In the moments you're talking about, where you're like, you have one more shot to pull something off.
Yep.
If they can tell they're not close to it, Jamie and Ralph do this. They reset the machine. And I say, I go for it.
Yeah.
And that's
you got to push through. You have a different mentality.
I do have a different mentality.
Which people should copy. That's what
Not everybody.
I'll go ahead and say it.
Some people can't handle it.
It might drive them crazy.
Yeah. But that's a situation where, that just proves how important these moments are.
Yep.
Because for example, I brought up Chaos Multi-Ball. If I'm on my third ball and I still need like 2 letters and the target, those guys will reset the machine.
You're still going for it.
I go for it because that's the really great feeling. No, I'm going to pull this off with one more ball.
Right. And obviously really important that we knock Jamie and Ralph down a few pegs.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they'll probably listen to this.
They'll recover.
Jamie's eyes might gloss over, but...
this whole conversation he's going to gloss over. I get that. I should start off by saying, I get that this is not interesting to everyone. What I mean?
I think people are...
I'm not crazy. I'm not that crazy. I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy.
You're going to blow minds.
Jamie, I'm not offended that you have not listened to this podcast or did it at like 3x. I get it.
We should put an Easter egg at the end that we know Jamie won't listen to.
Right. I get that. That's okay. There's no offense taken.
I'll add that in post.
Right. Absolutely. Add that in post. All right. So we were talking about I was so close or whatever. I'll give you Evil Dead being very good. So King Kong, great at that, by the way, just to finish out on like Elwyn games. King Kong, great. You're always so close to everything. The modes, you're one shot away. There's the treasure hunt. There's the island treasure. Now, it's not clear what you're close to, and that's a problem. But you are always close to it.
You're close to something.
You're close to something in that game. There's no denying that. Of all games that have ever been created, that might be the best that I was so close to. You still don't know what you're close to, but you're definitely close to something. I promise that. And then, like, you look at Evil Dead, one of the things that I really like about it is when you play your modes, there's 4 modes for every movie. If you just play and complete 2 modes, you get to a little mini wizard multi-ball, like Henrietta or Cheryl multi-ball, depending on which movie you pick. If you get to 4 modes, you get its own mini wizard mode. If you get to like all those things, the depth that I was talking about, when you add things at the end, then you have you want that depth to be there, but you want it paced out well. Right. I think about AC/DC, for example, which I'm sure one day will get remastered like Metallica did. And AC/DC, to an extent, has amazing code. It's a beloved game, especially for tournaments, and I get why. Yeah. And it should be, and I love it too. But and it's a Lyman game, and I love it too. But it's very poorly paced in a sense because the besides the tour multi-ball and the jam and the album that you get, if you want to beat the game. Like the only other thing to do is play all 12 songs, I believe. Right. And you have to get through the 12 song, which almost nobody has ever done. And I respect a wizard mode should be hard. I'm not saying don't put a wizard mode there. But what I'm saying is it's pretty obvious that you should have something, and I bet you they do this in the code when they remaster it. Yeah. You get a reward for playing 3 songs, and then another at 6 songs, and then another at 9 songs. Right. So that you're not just focusing on, like, the way people play that game right now, they don't even change songs. They play their, let's say, Thunderstruck.
No reason to.
No reason to.
Whatever you want to listen to.
Yeah, they could claim there's whatever you're whatever you're into, and like what the shot that's lit there, and that's what you're going for, and you play your Thunderstruck or like Whole Lot of Rosie or whatever to get the top lanes. And then you play that, and you don't change your song. You keep on picking it. You play your. I get why it's a good game, and it's a fun game. It's a great layout. It's good early code. Yeah. But past that, you're never going. You don't want to go through all the songs. You would never even try to go through all the songs. Why would you? You're never. You're not going to make it through all 12 songs if you're playing the game. And so it's like that's an example where it's like poorly paced is the truth. Everything. There's so many good things about it, but it's poorly paced. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So that's my my pacing, and if I didn't like be explicit enough when I was talking about like multi-balls early, like Jersey Jack games, if you're playing let's say Godfather, or you get a multi-ball off the if you do a skill shot, you get a multi-ball on that game. Like you're wrong on that code. Like that's wrong. That's a bad idea.
Right.
That's not a good idea. Guns N' Roses, there are 4 of these multi-balls before you get into the multi-ball of the song multi-ball. And, I could tell you how you get those multi-balls. Nobody knows or whatever most of the time, but people just know they're playing the game and they're in a multi-ball all of a sudden. And they could argue, well, that multi-ball, it's not worth much, Serge, or whatever, and it's not. They're right. But you just get a multi-ball that's just feeding persistent dopamine without extinction, And that's just a mistake.
Some people love it.
No.
Nobody loves it.
No, I don't believe it. I don't actually. There's some things I buy that are like for 90% of people. That's for 0% of the people.
Okay,
that's what I believe.
I'm with you. I don't like.
They're going to say those people who say they like it. Then ask them if they sold their game or not.
Oh,
you know what I mean? You ask them if they sold that game.
That's we don't need to bring up anybody.
No, but we can.
We can.
But we can. Oh, I love that game. Do you still have it? No, I got rid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know those people. Yeah.
Should we round off with the last?
Let's do it. So we're at number 10.
We are number 10. We went through it.
This is the grand finale.
Right.
Bugs.
And it's not the least by putting it as number 10. To be clear, if you have bugs, the game will not be in arcades. And you've talked about this already when we were talking about Dune. I'm not here to show. I love Dune in many ways. I wish Dune didn't have bugs, so I could convince you to put it in the arcade because I think it has theme immersion. I think it has amazing moments and mechs.
Yes.
And this is a code conversation.
It checks off all the boxes.
The code is there. The code is great. It's fantastic, even except for number 10. And if you just are missing this one thing, you can't have the game in an arcade. Right. That's just that. You have to accept that. You can't be like, well, what if? No. You can't have the game go down randomly. You can't have GTF in an arcade if it's going to have bugs.
Right.
And so we talk about, when we say code, we often mean rules, but it's also code. It's also like coding and detecting bugs and squashing them before you release it or soon after you release it.
Super important.
It's super important. It's going to ruin everyone's experience. Yeah. Am I right? You want to say anything else about it? Well, because I'm sure you have a lot.
Well, and bugs. Well, I've said enough about bugs in those show-stopping games like the GTF or the Dune. But what about
early spooky? I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Well,
not Evil Dead.
JJP.
Oh, interesting.
Godfather. There's a bug to this day that keeps you from getting to the wizard mode.
Oh yeah, they don't care about that. It's amazing how
they've moved on.
The weirdest thing about their code releases is they do the thing that other people say that they want, other customers say they want, which is like, hey, I want a lot of code when the game releases. I don't want to have to wait and update it all the time.
Right.
So they actually give you a lot when it releases.
Yeah.
Except for the last mile, and then they forget about the last mile for years and years and years. It's the weirdest decision. Especially considering...
Don't you wonder if they'll ever revisit Godfather?
I'm not a pinball programmer, but I have some programming background. And I have to believe that wizard mode, for example, is not the hardest thing to code in all of the game.
Yeah.
Especially because there's not 100 things competing with it when it's happening. When you're coding something like King Kong with 12 things simultaneously, that's actually hard to do, to get everything happening and what competes for priority.
For sure.
If you have one mode to code, like a wizard mode, it's not as hard as the other things, in my opinion. I'm not a professional coder. We could see if Ray Day disagrees. But but anyway, so I agree with you. Leaving that Godfather unfinished, they left Pirates unfinished for years.
And I may be mistaken, we'll find out in the comments, but from what I understand, the wizard mode is coded. That's completed.
There's a bug to get there.
There's a bug to get there.
Yeah. Right. A lot of people are going to say also well, you're never going to get to that, wizard mode. And I'm not either. I'm not going to get to that necessarily.
There's 5 people complaining.
Right. But it also matters because unless you have something to reach for, it's about dreams. It's not about reality.
Right.
And, I long ago, I had a Pirates, and I bought it when it first came out or whatever, so I got the good deal.
Yeah.
And JJP Pirates or whatever. And I don't think I was going to I came maybe 4. You have to get all these 5 mini wizards to get there. And I got 4 or whatever. And that was a once-in-a-lifetime game, and I was into it. But and I didn't get there, so it's not like I was ever right there.
Right.
But you want the dream that I could get there.
Yes.
And if you don't give people that dream...
Right. Why fight for it?
Why fight for it?
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, pinball is about emotions and dreams too.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. That's
what I say. Is that what do you think? Is that a good place to wrap it up?
I think that was very cool.
Right. Is 16 hours enough of a podcast or whatever this was?
Where are we? We're under 2 hours. We just did a 3-hour podcast with the round table. So I think
you guys
works.
didn't have 10 criteria.
No, we didn't have 10 criteria. Just shooting the shit.
All right. So all you viewers, thanks for listening or thanks for watching if you're watching on YouTube. Leave comments if you want to say something wrong about something we said. I'll try to respond to that.
Yeah.
But also give suggestions, either in the comments or Discord, Electric Bat Arcade Discord, where we have hundreds of members.
Yes, please.
Including a lot of the people and the manufacturers that we talked about.
Absolutely. They're all there.
Who might hate me now.
Yeah, and if you want to join, go to electricbatarcade.com, click on the podcast tab, and you can join in there. There's a big link that just says join our Discord.
That sounds good. And Jamie, it's time to return back to your body.
Right on. We're going to go get something to eat.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for joining us. Do we know what the next episode is going to be about?
We have a few ideas.
We have some ideas.
Yeah. Should we mention some of those ideas or just leave it? We'll figure it out ourselves.
Well, let's just talk about what the ideas are, because we have two. I think we have two.
Right. Well, some of them are a little. I don't know if you're going to mention them on this or whatever.
So
you go.
One of them is controversies in pinball.
Yep.
Was it controversies in art or just controversies in pinball?
I think you could have an episode on different ones. There's art controversies.
Okay.
Like obviously the most recent like AI and Potter, but there's been controversies since like Fonzie on 8-Ball, know, kind of thing, and all the way in between. We'll
get into that.
Lots of like too much raciness in the art.
Yeah.
A little uncomfortable stuff we can get into. So that's like one thing.
That's going to be fun.
Like a 1950s minstrel kind of game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's a little dicey.
We're going to get into all of it.
We could talk controversies in art delicately. That's the episode where we get canceled, by the way.
Right. We're trying our best.
Right, we're trying our best. Then there's other controversies we could talk about in other things. We just talked about code and pinball war, playfield warping and all sorts of other things. Mechs not working. We could talk about more rules by talking about next time a shorter podcast. Take a newer game and say, how does it stack up against these criteria if we think these are good criteria, for example. We could talk about what makes good lighting in pinball, what makes good sounds in pinball,
that's gonna be some
sound
good
effects,
stuff. Yes.
call-outs versus music. I don't even like lumping them all together. I think those three are different.
Right.
For example, and maybe we could have some guest stars, if they're interested, to go through all those things. That might be perfect for those things.
That's going to be good.
Like, for example, from, what's the one who's doing the Dune sound effects right now?
Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. That's right. Like, we can get him to talk about some
Dirty
sounds,
Pool
for
Pinball.
example, or like,
he would have some great insights into that. And on the art controversy episode,
get your boy Chris Franchi.
We got to get Franchi in here.
Absolutely. I'd love that if he's game.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Well, thank you for joining me. I think this is going to be a great series, and people are going to be really into it.
Well,
I'm excited to see where it goes.
We'll see. It's been a pleasure. You
right
son
on.
of a...
You son of a bleep.
You son of a bleep.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Peace.
It's Hector Barbosa.
It is Barbosa?
Barbosa.
I said it.
I think you might have said Barbarossa.
Oh, you're right. I said Barbarossa, which was the European conflict of World War I.
Also a fantastic
No, World War II.
album by Cubanate.
Oh, that I didn't know.